Good evening. Good evening and welcome. This is the regular meeting of the City Council, Palo Alto, April 13th, 2015. And would the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilmember Berman? Here. Councilmember Burt? Here. Councilmember Du Bois? Here. Councilmember Filseth? Here. Mayor Holman?
Here.
Councilmember Niss? Here. Councilmember Scharf? Here. Vice Mayor Schmidt?
Here.
Councilmember Woolbach?
Here.
9 present.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is any agenda changes, additions, or deletions. Seeing none, we then move to our standard item here is city manager comments. As you can see this evening, our city manager is not here this evening. He's out of town. He's attending a board meeting and an associated conference where he is being one of the speakers. So tonight's meeting is dedicated to the hearing of the Buena Vista. And so staff is going to confine the comments this evening to that topic. And so city manager comments are being continued until next week. So with that, we have oral communications. This is a time anyone who is here to speak to something that is not on the agenda, which means in this case, if it is not on the Buena Vista topic, this would be the time for you to put your speaker card in. And I have no cards at this point in time. Okay. So our next item on the agenda then is consent calendar. And do we have any motions or actions on the consent calendar, please? Have a motion for approval and a second. Councilmember Niss and Councilmember Berman. Councilmember Du Bois.
I'd like to move we pull item number 7 from consent.
And I will third that. So there is a motion on the floor to approve the consent calendar with 3 votes to pull item number 7. Any other comments? Seeing none, would council vote on the board, please? So that passes unanimously with item number 7 continued to a future date. So that brings us to the main feature of tonight's meeting, and it's an amazing turnout. Thank you all for coming. So there are some comments that should be made as we undertake this topic. I'm not big on reading written statements, but I think given the importance of this and given the legal component of this meeting, I will be reading some comments. So we're here this evening to hear an appeal by the Buena Vista Residents Association of the hearing officer's determination in the Buena Vista mobile home closure matter. Council's role in this hearing is to determine whether the hearing officer's decision, as it might be amended by the council, provides for a package of mitigation measures that are adequate to mitigate the adverse impact on the displaced residents, provided that the package does not exceed the reasonable cost of relocation. Once we have identified mitigations that meet this criteria, we must approve the closure application. We are not here tonight to discuss whether closing the park is fair or the right thing for this community. The park is privately owned, and the owner has a right under state and local law to go out of business, provided that he mitigated impacts on the displaced residents to the extent required by law. We are also not here tonight to discuss the hope and aspiration of many in the community that Buena Vista can be preserved for affordable housing. This is not within our jurisdiction this evening. We are aware that other community and neighborhood leaders are working toward that goal, and our city manager has informed us that he has set aside city funds so that at the right time we can have that discussion here. Before we can turn our attention to those issues, however, we must first consider the closure application. We have an obligation to be neutral, unbiased, and fair as council members, and to reach a decision based on evidence before us. Only after this process is concluded can we participate in the broader community conversation regarding Buena Vista. So if members of the public raise these topics in their comments tonight, everyone should understand that these issues are not before the council, and we will not be discussing or acting on them. Tonight we will begin with comments from the public. This includes residents of Buena Vista Mobile Home Park, as well as anyone else who would like to speak. After the public has concluded, we will move into presentations by the lawyers for both sides. We expect we will need to continue this hearing tomorrow, when we will finish the lawyers' presentations if they haven't finished tonight, and return the item to the council for discussion and decision. The public is welcome to attend throughout this process, but there will not be another chance to speak on tomorrow evening, and I believe that has been pretty well publicized to interested parties and circulated to others. So if you want to speak to this particular item, tonight is the night you should turn your card in. So far we have 57 cards. If we allowed 3 minutes, that's 3 hours. With the council approval, I would suggest that we go to 2 minutes, which is still 2 hours of testimony. Do I see any? I see no one objecting to that, so we'll go to 2 minutes for each speaker. And thank you all for coming tonight. I know this is a topic of great interest to the community. So to help to help us move forward, there are 2 other things that would be really helpful. As you hear your name called, if you would please come forward so that we don't use the time up while someone's moving from the back of the room to the front of the room. That would be most helpful. And additionally, we announce this sometimes, I think on this topic, we announce it ahead of time, that we really, to make it a fair playing field and for everybody to feel like it's an open forum where everyone can speak and be heard, we do discourage any kind of verbal or physical outpouring of showing of support or disapproval. So in other words, we really discourage applauding or anything of that nature. So it really makes it a safe environment for everyone. So if we would all abide by that, it would be much appreciated and help us move along. So our first speaker is Pam Davis, to be followed by Erica Escalante.
Good evening. My name is Pamela Davis, and I live at Space 88 in Buena Vista, and I've lived there since 1995. In the fall of 2000, I organized the mobile home park to work with the city to establish mobile home rent stabilization. In 2001, I was asked by the mayor to be on a task force that included residents, council members, members of the community, and the park owners to come to a compromise regarding rent in Buena Vista as well as plans for future development. The Palo Alto Mobile Home Ordinance was the document that was drafted by that committee. During the task force meetings, there were many conversations on the future of the residents of the park if it closed. 80% of the homes in Buena Vista in 2001 were too old even then to be moved to another park due to age requirements in those parks. The group understood the problem with the age and knew that appraised value would not cover even then the cost of another mobile home in another park. That is exactly why we use the word comparable in all through the ordinance. Other factors that led the group to use the word comparable were the location, the schools, the proximity to public transportation, and the fact that these are freestanding homes, and Buena Vista is a family all-age park that accepts pets in Palo Alto. The ordinance clearly states that relocation reimbursement for Buena Vista residents should be based on the comparable cost of a mobile home. On Friday, I looked at the MLS. There were 100 places on MLS. Unfortunately, 97 of those had restrictions for age, and that's really important when you're looking at this. There were only 3 that were allowing all age and were considered family all age parks. One was in San Jose, it was $54,000. One was in Fremont for $198,000, and one was in East Palo Alto for $224,000. Thank you, and I hope you can do comparable. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Erica Escalante, to be followed by Mary Cure.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and everyone here tonight. I'm Erica Escalante, president of Buena Vista Residents Association, and I'm here tonight with my parents, my siblings, and our children. Tonight is about more than the relocation plan and compensation for our losses. It's about Palo Alto and Buena Vista residents losing a community. Since the park closure process began, Buena Vista residents have been fighting very hard to stay in Palo Alto and in our homes. Buena Vista is not just a mobile home park, it's a community. One that takes care of each other, a community where our children are safe, where we have built strong bonds, a community where extended families can live close to each other, where grandma's house or uncle's house is just a couple units away. This is rare in a town where most kids must leave their hometown because they can't afford housing there. I live in Buena Vista not only because I grew up there since I was 11 years old, or because my son can go to the great schools I went to, JLS and Gunn, but also because I can be part of such a community. Since there's so much at stake here, we trust that you will decide, as we, that the relocation plan and compensation amount offered is nowhere near what it should be for us to stay here or anywhere else in Palo Alto. We will be forced to move far away where we will know no one, probably splitting up our families and farther, and the future of our kids and their stability badly affected. Some of us may even be homeless. Please keep this in mind as you make the decision. Thank you for hearing us tonight.
And thank you for coming. Again, please, no applause, please. I appreciate your concurrence with that. Mary Keir, to be followed by Maria Martinez.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Keir. I live in Space 54. I have lived at Buena Vista Mobile Home Park for 11 years. I am the Vice President of the Buena Vista Mobile Home Residents Association. I've worked almost all my life. I've got injured almost a year ago on my job, and I worked as a substitute custodian for the Palo Alto Unified School District. I've spent much more time home at Buena Vista, my community, my neighbors, and my neighborhood. Children playing, people waving hello in the morning, families talking to me at night. It is our own little town. If Buena Vista closes, I will not be able to live in the Bay Area anymore. I am barely surviving now. I cannot imagine what this would be like. If Buena Vista closes, I will not only lose my home and have to go far away, I will not be able to work in Palo Alto anymore. I will also lose my investment on my mobile home. I urge the City Council to please reject the offer that the owner is offering to us. The closure of Buena Vista will be the displacement of hundreds of people and children. Our neighborhood, our town will no more be. Thank you.
And thank you. Maria Martinez, to be followed by Roberto Munoz.
My name is Maria Martinez, and I live in Space 4C in a studio at Buena Vista. What I want to say is that I live there because it's a safe place, and mainly because my family, my brother family and my sister's family, we moved there a couple years ago to stay together as a family. It was a decision for us to stay together. We moved from different cities. We have lived for over 6 years in the park, and it is really hard. I feel heartbroken because like my sister and my brother, they have the trailers, and if they move the trailers, actually they cannot move the trailers, so they be like basically without a home. For me, I don't have a trailer. I live in a studio, and I am there to support them, and they are there to support me. And anytime that we have an emergency or they need babysitting, we stay together as a family, and that's what I want. I want to stay together as the family that we are, and same thing for our neighbors. In my case, I don't drive, so basically I rely on the public transportation too. I feel sad. I feel sad of what is happening, but I know that we're gonna keep fighting to do the right thing. Thank you.
Roberto Munoz, to be followed by Melody Cheney. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roberto Munoz, and I live in Buena Vista Mobile Home for 10 years. I have my wife and my 2 daughters here. And the reason we want to stay in mobile home is because I don't want my daughter lose the school. Palo Alto have a very, very beautiful schools, and I don't want to take my daughter out to the school. And the another reason is because I have my job close to home. I have my 2 daughters here and my wife. So this is one of those reasons I want to just keep the park open. And because you can afford it to pay the rent in Palo Alto, we want to stay in Palo Alto for the school for my daughters. And you can pay more money in Palo Alto is way too expensive for us. So that's one of those reasons. Please think about and you close the park. Everybody split the families all around the Bay Area. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and thank you.
And thank you. Melody Cheney, to be followed by Blanca Fonseca.
Good evening. My name is Melody Cheney. I've lived in the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park about 14 years. I'm also the secretary of the association. I'm a third-generation Californian. I have lived and planned on living in the Bay Area for all of my life. My home in Buena Vista is my part of the American dream. My first and only home that I can call mine. It will be paid off in December. I can't guarantee I'm going to be living in it when I pay it off. Being physically challenged, I depend on the public transportation. The major bus line, the 22, is right in front of my house. I can get to my visits, I can go to work, I can get my vet, my cat Cleo can go to her vet. At this point, I spend about $1,300 a month in my rent bills with utilities. The cheapest one I've seen without utilities is $1,800 a month. Buena Vista is my second family. I hope to be able to stay that for the rest of my life. I ask the council to reject the offer. Let us stay as a family where we can support ourselves, be members of the community. The one thing I would like to do is, can I have all of the residents stand up, please? All of the residents, can I have you stand up? Can I have all of our supporters stand up, please? These are the people that this decision will affect in one way or another. Please let us stay in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cheney. Please. Thank you, Ms. Cheney. Our next speaker is Blanca Fonseca, and the next speaker will be Rosemary Roja. And I hope you understand why we discourage applause. I hope you understand that. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Blanca Fonseca. I have lived in Buena Vista Mobile Home since 1991. I know most of the residents. I know all the residents that they've been going to heaven. And I know how hard it's been for everybody to survive with this notice from the past 2 years. We are getting hurt not only as economic or losing our investments. I consider it's also emotional, mental, and physical. I have become disabled since 2010. 60% of my body is not okay. And I cannot be working since 5 years ago. When I received the letter that Joe was closing the mobile home park, it was the day I come out of the hospital for my second surgery. And I was really crying. I don't know if it was because it was so painful, the surgery on my shoulder and my neck, or because I read his letter and I didn't know which bed I was going to be for the next surgeries. I think I still need to go for more surgeries, but I'm handling on my husband's money, my brother's money. We all live in Palo Alto, and I went to all these beautiful schools in the area. And I really appreciate it if you guys please help us. The money that we're getting is not enough to survive outside. The cheapest rents in Mountain View or anywhere, it's almost $2,000. I don't know what I will do if I lose my home. Not only me, my caregiver doggy, he's a pet, and it's my companion doggy. I have a letter from my psychology that anywhere I go, I'm supposed to have him with me no matter what, 24/24. And one time I was walking my doggy, and the owner asked me, it was a nice doggy, very middle doggy. He says he wanted a doggy for his kids for Christmas. so I didn't answer anything. I said, yes, he's very mellow. He's very nice doggy. But in my mind, it was like, how come you can say that to a people who's losing a home and also your pet is losing his home? Thank you very much.
And thank you. Rosemary Rocha, and I apologize if I mispronounce it, and followed by Jennifer Guzman. So maybe if you'd speak your name, then we'll get it correct.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Rocha, and I live in the studio in Buena Vista. I've been there almost back and forth about 20 years altogether. All I know is that you as a city council have a very hard decision to make, and us as residents have a hard decision to go by. I understand that it's difficult on both sides, but one side loses, one side wins. All I want to do is be on the winning side. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Guzman, to be followed by Ms. El Morales.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Guzman. I'm 11 years old and I've been living in the mobile homes for 8 years. Please don't take away our homes because I love my school, home, friends, and family. If I move, I will have a different education and I will know no one in my new home. I'll be separated from the people I love, and my parents have a stable job, so they'll lose their jobs. Please don't take away our small community. Thank you.
Again, please, thank you for coming. Ms. El Morales, to be followed by Alfredo Garcia.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Misael Morales. I currently live on Unit 64. I live with my parents, my mother, my father, my sister, my little brother, and now my girlfriend. And she is pregnant, and I'm expecting to be a father soon. I've lived in Palo Alto for a little bit over than 12 years in that trailer park, in that mobile home park, and I've attended Barron Park Elementary, I've attended Terman Middle School, and I've attended Gunn High School. And I am here to say that Palo Alto Unified School District is a great district. I have benefited from this district pretty big. I got accepted to Washington State, but for unfortunate events, I wasn't able to attend. But I feel if I was in a different district and a different community, I wouldn't be able to accomplish that. And I'm here to speak out on how great this community is and this district that I hope my brother can continue on. And I'm not sure if it's my daughter or son that's coming, but hopefully they can attend this district by us still living here. I'm just here to help, to ask of you guys to help save our home. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Alfredo Garcia, to be followed by Guadalupe Fonseca.
Buenas noches. I want to speak in Spanish, my history, because it's better for me. Okay, thank you very much.
Habla en español solamente.
Okay. Buenas noches, señores del cónsul.
Good evening, council members.
Vengo aquí a hablar, a exponer mi pena que tengo por lo que está.
I'm here to express how sad I am.
Yo tengo 11 años viviendo allí.
I've been living there for 11 years.
Y la importancia para mí es que yo tengo mi hija de 3 años y medio.
And the importance to me is that I have a 3.5-year-old daughter.
Sí, y yo vivo en la traila número 20 y a unas cuantas trailas me cuidan a mi hija allí.
I live in trailer number 20, and a few doors down, they take care of my daughter there.
Y yo tengo plena confianza donde me la cuidan.
And I'm very confident where they care for her for me.
Y es por eso que yo quisiera quedarme allí.
And that's why I wish I could remain there.
Y es todo, y muchas gracias.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank the both of you. Guadalupe Fonseca, to be followed by Amanda Serrano.
Good afternoon. My name is Guadalupe Fonseca, and I got this my mobile home since 1993. When I finally finished paying my house, I was feeling so safe and so happy. Finally, I had something. Now at this point, I don't know if we're gonna end homeless. We really need your help, you guys. You are our hearings. We really need help. Now, I have something here. I got some flyers from mobile homes, not in Palo Alto, because there is no way for us to find mobile homes in Palo Alto. But I had from San Jose, and I had from Sunnyvale. And they starting at $89,000, very old ones, like what we have over there. And only from 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom, $90,000 to $150,000. So I really, you guys, we need your help. We want you to please save our place. We really need your help. Thank you.
Amanda Serrano, to be followed by Jessica Guzman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amanda Serrano, and I'm here asking for mercy. Tonight, I'm decided to say what I feel. I'm a transsexual, and I'm not afraid to say it. And the only place I've been living in so many places. The only place I feel safe is Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. I also have a heart problem and diagnostic with PTSD. Right now, I've been having a lot of problems concentrating because of my PTSD. I'm working with my therapy, and the thing is, I have a lot of thoughts in my mind since I find out that they're going to close the park. And I told my counselor, I'd rather to be deaf, kill myself, than be a homeless. Like me, there are so many people over there, they're disabled too. I have multiple medical disabilities and mentally, though. I'm here to ask you guys, counselors, for mercy. And look, we need you guys. We need your support, please. Don't let these people close our Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. It's my first home, too. And I feel safe over there like nowhere else. Please, please help us and keep the place open for people who need, people with disabilities, a lot of kids too who need to stay there. Please, Major Karen Holman, please help us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Thank you for your comments. Jessica Guzman, to be followed by Jose Toledo.
Hello, I am 13 years old, and I've been living in Buena Vista for 8 years. And before I came here, I was scared that my community was not going to be the right one for me. But I'm here with all these people that every time I go outside my house, I know I'm safe. It is the most safest community I can think of. Like my Tia Maria, she mentioned, we did decide as a family to stay in this community, and I do not want to be parted away from my family. I've moved once, and it did not feel great. And there are so many children here that have a great schools. Like, I've attended Barron Park, and it's a wonderful school. And right now I'm in Terman, and I'm in 8th grade, and I'm hoping that I can continue into Gunn and go into Stanford University. And so many other people want to attend Stanford University. Is a great opportunity. And when I found out they were closing, I also found out that the laundromats and the bathrooms are closing down. I found this letter in my aunt's house, and this showed me that the park owner is scared that we are going to win, because this is why he's making us all these rules. He's telling us if you need to have this place clean,
Everything has to be nice and neat. There shouldn't be, your houses should be clean. And we have done everything to keep our homes the way they are. Thank you.
And thank you for coming. Jose Toledo, to be followed by Elisa Guzman.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es José Toledo.
Good evening, my name is Jose Toledo.
Tengo más de 7 años viviendo en las trailers.
I've been living at the trailers for over 7 years.
Una de las razones que estoy ahí es porque es algo seguro.
One of the reasons that I'm there is because it's a safe place.
Vivo con mi hermana y con su niño. Tengo mi sobrino que va a la escuela también.
I live there with my sister and her child, my nephew who goes to school there also.
Otra de las razones que me gusta ahí es que los hospitales están cerca.
¿Hospitales?
Sí.
Another reason why I like it there is because hospitals are nearby.
Hace 6 meses, hace casi un año, tuve una cirugía del cerebro.
Almost a year ago, I had surgery on my brain.
Me abrieron desde aquí hasta acá.
I was cut open from here to there.
Y de este lado me hicieron otro pozo.
And I had another intervention here on this other side.
Si no hubiera estado cerca de los hospitales,
if I hadn't been near the hospitals,
probablemente no estuviera aquí.
I would probably not be here.
Estoy aquí por la gracia de Dios y porque estoy viviendo cerca de los hospitales.
I'm here by the grace of God and because I live near the hospitals.
Estuve en el hospital como casi 3 meses.
I spent almost 3 months at the hospital.
Y gracias a Dios todo está bien.
And thanks to God, everything is fine.
Solamente de este lado tengo un globito pequeño de este lado.
I have a little globe here, a little one on this side.
Que me está monitoreando cada 6 meses o cada año.
That they keep monitoring every 6 months to once a year.
Y no estoy trabajando ahorita por lo que me pasó.
I'm not working right now because of what happened to me.
Y mi hermana, el trabajo que tiene no es estable.
And my sister's job is not stable.
Y me gustaría que nos ayudaran.
And we would like for you to help us.
Porque necesitamos ese lugar. Mi hermana necesita, mi sobrino necesita.
Because we need that place. My sister needs it. My nephew needs it.
Yo también lo necesito.
I also need it.
Y por favor, piensa lo que van a hacer.
Please think about what you'll be doing.
No nomás soy yo de esa condición, hay mucha gente más.
It's not just myself in that condition. There's many other people.
Es todo, gracias.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're glad you're here, Mr. Toledo. Elisa Guzman, to be followed by Gloria, and I need help with this one, Palejos.
My name is Elisa Guzman. I am 9 years old, and I love my home and my school, Barron Park. Lots of people live in the mobile homes. If we get kicked out, we won't know where to go. Don't let us phone our time of need. My family has a good job, and I don't want anything to happen to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Palejos. And I appreciate your pronouncing your name. To be followed by Juana Sandoval.
Hola. Gloria Palacios.
Gloria Palacios.
Mi nombre es Gloria Palacios.
My name is Gloria Palacios.
Tengo 8 años viviendo en Buenavista.
I've lived at Buenavista Mobile Home Park for 8 years.
Y estoy siendo afectada.
I'm being affected.
Porque no solamente voy a perder mi casa,
because I won't only be losing my home,
mi techo, mi
my
estabilidad,
roof, my stability,
sino también si me muevo a un área más económica que es a las afueras de San José,
but also if I move to a less costly area, which would be in the outskirts of San Jose,
o East Palo Alto,
or East Palo Alto,
u Oakland,
or Oakland,
Es más económica la renta, pero
Rents are cheaper,
el índice de criminalidad es muy alto.
but the crime rate is very high.
Y al moverme a un lugar más económico,
And in moving to a more economic place,
voy a perder mi trabajo porque yo tengo 3 o 4 trabajos o 5 a la semana.
because I'll be losing my job. I have 3, 4, or 5 jobs per week
En Palo Alto,
in Palo Alto,
en Mountain View
in Mountain View,
o en Sunnyvale.
or in Sunnyvale.
Entonces, yo pido por favor
So then I request that you please,
que la familia Giselle considere
that Giselle family will consider
un precio más alto para las unidades.
perhaps a higher price for the units.
No estamos pidiendo que nos regalen nada.
We're not asking for anything to be given
Todos los que
free to
vivimos
us.
ahí somos gente de trabajo y trabajo fuerte, no nos da miedo trabajar.
All the ones that live there are hard workers. We're not fearful of heavy work.
Solamente pedimos un precio justo por las unidades.
We're only requesting a fair price for the units,
No afectar a la familia Giselle
not to affect the Joseph family
en sus intereses económicos,
as far as their financial interests,
pero que tampoco afecte a los nuestros.
but that they
Gracias.
should not affect ours either. Thank you.
And thank you. Juana Sandoval, to be followed by Umbelina Martinez.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es Juana Sandoval.
My name is Juana Sandoval.
Yo vivo en el espacio número 60
I live on space number 60
por 7 años.
during 7 years.
Mi cuestión es de que, por favor, no nos muevan de ahí.
My issue is, please don't move us out of there.
Tengo yo 2 hijos, los cuales van a la escuela, a la
I have
high school.
2 children that go to school.
Cuando yo me moví de Mountain View
High
a
school.
Palo Alto,
When I moved from Mountain View to Palo Alto,
no me preocupaba tanto el hecho de que yo tenía que trabajar por ser madre soltera para ellos dos,
I was not so concerned about having to work as a single mother for them too,
porque es un lugar muy adecuado para estar ellos
because it's a very adequate place for them to be.
y no necesitaba que se fueran a ir a estar lejos o con algunas malas personas, porque en estas escuelas se han enfocado mucho para que ellos puedan salir adelante.
I didn't need to send them far away to be cared by other people because these schools are very good at educating them.
Entonces, por favor, no quisiera irme de ahí,
So please, I
porque
would
no
not
podría pagar otro lugar más.
like to have to move from there because I would not be able to pay for another place.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Todo, gracias.
Umbelina Martinez, to be followed by Alvaro Hernandez.
Good evening, council members. My name is Umbelina Martinez. I live on trailer number 87. I've been living there since 2008. And 2008 was a very difficult time for me. I ended up with a broken marriage, lost my home, lost my credit, having no job. 3 girls of 2, 6, and 8, and a stepbrother who had no home. And I decided to adopt it, even though my situation was not easy. A mom that is disabled. All of them are here, and having to work 2 jobs or more as necessary. And I had to sacrifice a lot of time. Now, seeing my kids to be able to afford buying this trailer that I could afford. And finally, after this time, I was able to have this home where I can have a safe place for my kids. And then I find out that the possibility of finding that we have to go from there. I really request you to help us and be fair as possible to make sure that we have a fair way to continue. And thank you.
Thank you. Alvaro Hernandez, to be followed by Omar Cruz.
Good afternoon. My name is Alvaro Hernandez, and I am 14 years old.
Can you speak up just a little bit, please, sir?
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Alvaro Hernandez, and I am a 14-year-old. I have lived in Buena Vista Mobile Park since 2010. I live with both my parents and 4 younger sisters. I am a current 9th grader at Henry M. Gunn High School. One of my sisters goes to Terraman Middle School, and she's 11 years old. 2 of my other sisters go to Barron Park Elementary School, and one of them is 6, and the other one is 10. I also have a younger one that is 3, and she doesn't go to school yet. One of the reasons we don't want Buena Vista to close is because we'll lose our homes, and it will be hard for us to find a new place for us to live. In Palo Alto, houses are expensive, and we are a family of 7 people. Before we lived in East Palo Alto, we lived in... The reason we moved was because we were victims of a robbery. 3 men came into our house to assail us. They put a gun on my mom's head and pepper sprayed her in the face. Also, recently my mom and sisters were close to a person in East Palo Alto who was shooting another person. Another reason I don't want you to close Buena Vista is because we live near our schools, and if we go to another place away from here, we might have to change schools. We don't want to lose our friends. We've had lots of good times and memories here. Please help us and don't close the park. It will be sad losing everything we have worked for. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Omar Cruz, to be followed by Andre Bracamontes.
Hello, my name is Omar Cruz, and I'm 11 years old. I have lived in the trailer parks for my entire life. I went to Barron Park when I was in elementary school, and now I'm a 6th grader who goes to Terman. I don't want you to take my education away and find me another school. And I don't want to lose any of my friends, and I am really planning to go to Gun to get a really good education. And I don't want any of my friends to leave me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andre Bracamontes. I'm a 3rd grader at Barron Park Elementary School. I am here tonight to tell you that I don't want to lose my home because I've lived here all my life. I want to continue living here at Buena Vista because I am close to my grandma and aunt who take care of me and my friends that go to school with me. Hope you can help us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Giovanni Lopez Berchasa. I'm in 2nd grade at Barron Park Elementary School. I would like to stay in my home. Please don't let the owner close the park. I love Buena Vista because all my friends live here and go to school with me. I have 1 brother and 2 sisters, and if we move, it will be really hard on all of us. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, young men, for coming. Andre Bracamonte, please. Andre Bracamonte, to be followed by Giovanni Lopez.
Good evening, council members. My name is Saul Bracamontes. I am a resident of Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. I've been living there since 2011 with my son and wife. I work at a Whole Foods Market, Palo Alto. I am the produce team leader. The reason why I'm speaking tonight is because I want you, the city council members, to really take a look at this ordinance that was made 15 years ago and has never been used to address a situation like this before. There are some areas that have been questioned because they are vague, like what is considered a comparable community or whether education should be a part of it. I strongly believe that education has to be a part of the ordinance, and you should consider on how it applies tonight. I ask you to reject the relocation package that the owner is offering us. It's not even close to being fair. What's going to happen to all of our families Don't we have the right to choose where to live, where we want to live? This is a job for the city of Palo Alto and government to do something, not just to seem like they are doing something. This is about doing the right thing, and I know Palo Altans choose to do the right thing. With this being said, I am confident that you, the city council members, are going to make the right decision. Thank you.
Giovanni Lopez, to be followed by Saul Bracamontes. Giovanni Lopez? Oh, that was him, okay. Saul Bracamontes. We've got all these names. And here I was thinking they hadn't filled out cards. Myra Escalante. We haven't already heard from her. And Elisa Valencia.
Good night, everyone. My name is Myra Escalante, and this is my husband, Heriberto Avalos. I'm also here with my son, Mauricio. I've been living in Buena Vista since I was 8 years old. I attended Juana Briones Elementary, GLS Middle School, and graduated from Gunn High School. About 3 years ago, I bought my own mobile home, and the reason why I'm here tonight is to bring to your attention the damage it will cause my family if this park were to be closed. When I decided to buy my own mobile home, I was always thinking of my son's future and how amazing it would be for him to attend the same great schools that I went to. If this park were to be closed, it's like shutting all doors for him and all the great opportunities the Palo Alto School District offers. One thing I would like you to consider when making this decision is how hard it is to find affordable housing in Palo Alto or anywhere in the Bay Area. We have been looking and searching for mobile homes nearby, and they are too expensive. With the relocation the owner is offering, it is impossible for us to go buy another home. I bought my mobile home 3 years ago, and the home prices have increased in value. How is it that he's offering less than what I paid for? But hey, why don't I make it easy for him and let him find me a mobile home near the area, exactly like mine, with 2 rooms, and with the same condition that mine is in. If he were to find it and buy it for the same price he's offering me, I would move, but I know he won't. It's a joke. It's ridiculous what he is trying to offer, not just to me, but to everyone else. Here are some flyers. I brought some flyers also that show the prices that kind of compare to my house, and they're all above $200,000. Also, our jobs are near our home. We would also have to look for new jobs if we were forced to move. Finding new jobs right now is not easy anymore, and who guarantees us that we will find any? And our commute will be longer, which means more gas money as well. What the owner is offering us does not compensate all the opportunities and privileges that we have here in Palo Alto. We all feel comfortable and safe in the community. Everyone knows and looks out for each other. All my family lives here.
If you could finish.
In the park, and I'm almost done. And cousin-in-laws, the closure of this park will separate all of us. It will separate many families. I am very confident that you will make the right decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alicia Valencia. Was that Alicia? Jose Cardenas. I'm sorry. Jose Cardenas will be next.
Hola, buenas noches.
Hello, good evening.
Mi nombre es Elisa Valencia.
My name is Elisa Valencia.
Y mi hija Lisette Valencia.
And my daughter Lisette Valencia.
Gracias por permitirme estos minutos para compartir mi historia.
Thank you for allowing these minutes for me to share my story.
En el año 2012, a mi familia y a mí
In the year 2012, my family and myself,
se nos presentó la oportunidad de comprar nuestra casa en Palo Alto.
the opportunity presented itself for us to buy a home in Palo Alto.
lo cual llegamos con muchas ilusiones a Buenavista Mobile Home Park,
And we came into Buena Vista Mobile Home Park with a lot of illusion and anticipation
es la unidad 103.
in the 103rd unit.
La comunidad nos recibió muy bien,
The community received us very well.
el distrito escolar y las escuelas de Palo Alto,
The school district and the schools in Palo Alto,
Barron Park, GLS,
Barron Park, GLS, Thurman,
y Guy High School, por
and Gunn
mencionar algunas,
High School, to mention a few,
nos recibieron con los brazos abiertos.
received us with open arms.
Hemos recibido, como también hemos aportado mucho a la ciudad de Palo Alto.
We have received, but we have also given back to the community of Palo Alto.
Hemos sido buenos vecinos,
We've been good neighbors.
pagamos nuestra renta a tiempo,
We pay our rent on time.
respetamos las reglas del parque y de la ciudad.
We respect the rules, both at the park and in the city.
Es muy difícil cambiar a nuestros hijos de las escuelas de Palo Alto.
It's very difficult for us to move our children out of the Palo Alto schools.
Se afectarían psicológicamente,
They would be affected psychologically
forzándolos a ir a otro lugar que no conocen.
if they were forced to go someplace that they're not familiar with.
Y tal vez no lograrían sus metas.
And perhaps they wouldn't achieve their goals.
Es muy importante para nosotros salvar nuestras casas
It's very important for us to save our homes
y no afectar a nuestras familias.
and not to affect our families.
Que este caso se resuelva con transparencia,
That this case may be settled with transparency.
que se nos evalúen nuestras casas según lo que valen
That our homes be valued in accordance with their true value.
y es muy importante para mí decir
And it's very important for me to state
que el daño que nos causan psicológico no tiene precio.
that the psychological damage being caused to us has no price.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Jose Cardenas, to be followed by Rosa Maria Garcia. Jose Cardenas. Rosa Maria Garcia.
Buenas noches a todos.
Good evening, everyone.
Mi nombre es Rosa María García.
My name is Rosa Maria
Mi
Garcia.
esposo es René Escalante.
My husband, René Escalante.
Nosotros vivimos en la unidad 21.
We live in Unit 21.
Tenemos 16 años viviendo en Buenavista.
We've been living at Buena Vista for 16 years.
La situación por la que estamos pasando es muy grave.
The situation through which we are now going is very grave.
Estamos en riesgo de quedarnos en la calle
We're at risk of being made homeless,
con la compensación que el dueño nos está ofreciendo.
considering the compensation that the owner is offering us.
Él nos está ofreciendo $29,000 por nuestra casa
He's offering us $29,000 for our home,
y para nosotros es una burla.
and to us it's a joke.
Nos está ofreciendo esa miseria por nuestra casa,
He's offering us a pittance for our home.
que es de 3 recámaras y está en muy buenas condiciones.
It's a 3-bedroom and it's in very good condition.
Nosotros hemos buscado casas similares a la de nosotros
We've searched out similar homes to ours,
y están arriba de $180,000 a $250,000.
and they cost about $180,000 to $250,000.
Entonces, ¿qué vamos a hacer con los $29,000 que él nos está ofreciendo?
So then, what are we going to do with the $29,000 that he's offering us?
Quedarnos en la calle,
Remain on the street,
perder nuestro hogar que con tanto sacrificio conseguimos.
lose the home that we acquired through so much sacrifice.
Y por otra parte, no podríamos quedarnos a vivir en Palo Alto
And besides that, we wouldn't be able to remain as residents of Palo Alto,
con los altos costos de alquiler.
considering the high cost of rents.
Yo soy la única que estoy trabajando
I'm the only one working
porque mi esposo está lastimado y no puede trabajar.
because my husband was injured and he's unable to work.
Él me ayuda un poco, pero no es suficiente.
He helps me out some, but it's not sufficient.
Y es por eso que para nosotros es algo muy catastrófico.
That's why to us it's something catastrophic.
Y le pido al honorable Consejo de la Ciudad
And I request the Honorable City Council
que rechace el cierre del parque o que le exija al
to
dueño que nos pague nuestras
reject
casas
the closure of the park or to demand that the owner pay for our homes,
como están en el mercado.
such as they are on the market.
A nosotros nos gustaría quedarnos aquí en Palo Alto
We would like to remain here in Palo Alto
porque mi hijo más pequeño está cursando el primer año de high school
because my youngest child is in first year of high school.
y me gustaría que él se graduara de esa escuela que es una de
And
las mejores.
I would like to see him graduate from one of those schools, which happens to be one of the best,
Y tuviera la oportunidad
and for him to have the opportunity,
que mis 3 hijos mayores tuvieron.
and that my other 3 older children had.
Ellos se graduaron de la Gun High School
They graduated from Gunn High School,
y tuvieron la oportunidad de graduarse de la universidad.
and they got the opportunity to graduate from university.
Y lo mismo queremos para él,
And we want the same thing for him.
pero si nos desalojan de nuestro hogar,
But if we are expelled from our home,
será muy difícil para
it would be
nosotros.
very difficult for us.
Es por eso que les pido su apoyo,
That's why I am requesting your support,
esperando que consideren nuestra situación
hoping that you will take into account our situation
y tomen una decisión justa a favor de
and
los
that
residentes de Buenavista
you make a fair decision in favor of the Buena Vista residents,
y tomen en cuenta el futuro de nuestros hijos.
and that you take into account our children's future.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos nuestros vecinos.
Thank you very much to all our neighbors.
Gracias.
Thank you.
And thank you. Hector Martinez, to be followed by Junior Nicholas Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Hector Martinez. I've been living at the trailer park for 7 years. I'm currently attending Gunn High School and previously attended Terman. And I really like the school district compared to other school districts I've been at. And I really do not want to lose the opportunity of graduating Gunn because I'm a junior and have to restart what I've done here. And I don't want to lose the opportunity of really good education that Palo Alto offers. Thank you.
Thank you. Junior Nicholas Martinez, to be followed by Angel Martinez. I'm using my baseball knowledge, so I hope Angel is correct.
Good evening.
Angel is correct.
Good evening. My name is Nicolas Martinez, and I am 11 years old, and I go to Barron Park Elementary. I've been living at the mobile homes for 8 years, and I love my home and my school. Please help us stay in our homes, and if we leave, I will not get the education I have now, and I will not be able to see many of my friends. Please help save our homes. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Angel Martinez, and I am 8 years old. I go to Barron Park Elementary School. I am in 3rd grade with a very nice teacher, and I wish to not move to the street because I would not be able to see many of my friends. Thank you.
Are you Nicholas Martinez?
Yes.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Nicolas Martinez. We are a family of 4. We are the Martinez family, one of many from the park.
You can lift the mic up to you. Yes, there you go.
There we go. The main focus of our family is to keep our children in school. It's, as many know, it is one of the best districts in the entire state. Moving us from, having us move from where we live, it will make us lose that opportunity to offer our kids that education that will pretty much commence from starting from zero. And I know that at the short age that they have, that wouldn't be the best decision that us as parents would allow if it was within our hands, within our reach. As I previously mentioned already, my name is Nicolas Martinez. I've been living here in California for over 20 years. Along those years, I have lived in several places. Many of those places not by choice, but by necessity. And when we moved into Buena Vista, it became an ideal place to raise our two kids, to offer them the education that I didn't have, to reassure that they would not be beat up after school like I was on the way home. That is why I want them to stay here and have the education that I didn't have. Now, if you could make that happen, that would be a dream come true for us. Please reconsider the closing of the park. And not just in our name, not just for us, but for all the families that are there. I'm pretty sure they're also having the same thoughts as I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Karen Camacho, to be followed by John Barton.
Good evening, Palo Alto City Council members. My name is Karen Camacho, and I'm one of the many students who grew up at Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. In 2012, I graduated from Gunn High School after having previously attended Barron Park Elementary School and Terman Middle School. And I'm currently a junior at Stanford University, majoring in political science. When my family first arrived to the United States in the year 2000, we had very little money, and the only place we could afford to live was Buena Vista. My dad worked and still works as a custodian at Stanford, and my mom works as a stock clerk in Stanford Shopping Center. When they would return home after a long day of work, they would tell my siblings and I to study hard so that we wouldn't have to go through the same struggle they went through. For the first 3 years in school, my older siblings and I took supplemental English classes with a teacher and that paid close attention to us, and soon I was at the same academic level as my peers. At Terman, I received incredible support from both the faculty and staff. I began taking advanced classes and AVID, a support class where I was tutored by Stanford students in math, history, English, and for five years later, I returned to Terman to tutor in that very same program. At Gunn High School, I took advanced courses like AP Spanish, French, statistics, economics, psychology, biology, and AB calculus. Not many schools offer this many advanced placement courses because they simply cannot afford to do so. I also was very involved in student clubs such as French Club and the Latino Student Union. I found great support from my academic counselor, teachers, the College and Career Center, and the Academic Center at Gunn. Gunn provided me with the academic rigor I needed to go to college and the opportunities to explore my interests while finding support from faculty. At graduation, I received the Faculty Cup for my involvement both at Gunn and in my community. My family was very proud. Despite the great support from my family throughout my schooling, I doubt I would have found the resources and support I needed growing up had I not attended the schools I did. It was because of the affordable housing in Buena Vista that my family was able to live in Palo Alto and benefit from the incredible schools. After graduating, my brother found a job at Stanford, and my sister began to work as a software test engineer at a tech company headquartered in Palo Alto. Had my family not lived in Buena Vista, we simply would not have been able to be where we are now. As it is clear year after year, PAUSD teachers and schools are both incredibly effective and resourceful. I truly hope that the families currently living in Buena Vista and sitting in this room, including a close relative of mine with 2 small children sitting over there, are able to have the same opportunities that I, my siblings, and generations of Buena Vista residents have been able to benefit from greatly. Please do not let Palo Alto be another city where gentrification persists. Thank you very much.
John Barton, to be followed by Candace Gonzalez. Welcome, John.
Good evening, council members. My name is John Barton, and I'm the board president of the Community Working Group. Those standing with me are members of our board. You may not know us, but you know of us. The Community Working Group is the organization behind Alma Garden, 801 Alma, and the Opportunity Center, all offering affordable housing to families and individuals in Palo Alto who would otherwise be at risk of homelessness. You may not know us, but we are of Palo Alto. We are a group of local community leaders, including former elected officials, professors, activists, business people, and clergy. We believe that Palo Alto is not a place just for the rich, but must be a place for all. We believe that all people deserve to have their basic needs met, and housing chief amongst them. The narrow question before the council tonight is, what is an adequate relocation package? But we're talking about Palo Alto residents who are homeowners. So let me ask you this. How much money would I need to offer you to leave Palo Alto? How much is it worth for you to lose your home, lose your job, pull your children out of one of the best school districts in the nation, leave your neighborhood, leave your family and friends, and move to Stockton or Modesto? How much would I need to pay you to do that? Then imagine that your income is less than $30,000 a year. Do you believe that the opportunity offered by our community and our schools to transform children's lives and families' lives has no value? We submit that our community, including our elected officials, have a moral responsibility to go beyond the strict requirements of the law and do what's right. We need to find a solution that fairly compensates the property owner for Buena Vista and that allows the community that is Buena Vista to survive and prosper. Surely we have the resources in this community, one of the richest in the nation, to do just that. If we can't make this happen, if all of us can't make this happen, if we don't make it happen, I ask you, who are we? Who are we? Thank you.
Thank you. Just another reminder about the applause, please. Candace Gonzalez to be followed by Paul George.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm Candace Gonzalez, and I'm speaking tonight as a board member of the Housing Trust Silicon Valley. The mission of the Housing Trust is to make Silicon Valley a more affordable place to live. But what does affordable mean? In Palo Alto, in the last year, the average sales price of a single-family home was over $2.8 million, while the average fair market rent of a three-bedroom apartment in Palo Alto is over $4,000 per month. A family with one full-time worker earning the minimum wage cannot afford the local fair market rent for a 2- or 3-bedroom apartment anywhere in the U.S., much less in Palo Alto. So one question we have been asked is, where could the residents of the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park go if displaced? There are hundreds, even thousands of families on the wait list at the local affordable properties. It takes more than 5 years to get off the wait list. So just moving to another affordable unit is no simple task. Another question the Housing Trust has been asked is, what would it take to build 116 low-income units in Palo Alto, for example, on El Camino? First, it would take land, and land is rare and expensive in Palo Alto. Then it would take assembling enough parcels to accommodate 116 units under existing zoning, or it would require a reevaluation of the city's zoning codes, which currently do not allow for this type of density, even for affordable housing. All of this would take government and community-wide support. If, and that's a big if, these big hurdles are somehow met, it would then require at least 3 levels of funding: local government, state government, and private sector. So needless to say, affordable housing is at a crisis level in this community. On a personal note, it definitely makes me cringe to think about losing what little diversity we have left here. It makes me reevaluate raising my 4-year-old, my 2-year-old, and my 10-month-old in this type of community. I know that the color Palo Alto is green. Let's shoot for a rainbow. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul George to be followed by Bonnie Packer.
Good evening, Council. My name is Paul George. I am the Director of Peninsula Peace and Justice Center, which has been based here in Palo Alto for 33 years. I understand you're looking at a narrow legal question. So, according to the Municipal Code, the relocation plan must allow for relocation to a comparable mobile home, comparable mobile home parks, comparable housing. The code also says that comparable housing must be, quote, located within a community similar to that in which the park that is being closed is located and has similar access to community amenities, end quote. Surely that includes schools. The word comparable is in fact used 25 times in this section of the municipal code. Clearly, when this code was adopted, it was very, very important to the City Council that longtime Palo Alto residents not be forced out of their homes and required to not only relocate, but to upend and redefine their entire lives, which is the situation we confront today. Given the cost of living in this area and the skyrocketing rents, the proposed relocation plan is wholly inadequate. Frankly, I don't see how any relocation plan could truly meet the standards of comparability that were clearly so important to the City Council at the time this law was written. But this is also a social question. There is the more profound question of how we all, elected officials and residents, are going to address the very real long-term problems being created by an ever more exclusive local economy. Palo Alto is practically ground zero for increasing inequality and its negative effects on our society and democracy. You can reject the relocation plan based on the law. There is no comparable compensation that can be made. You can also reject the plan because it is harmful to the city and its residents, all its residents. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Bonnie Packer, to be followed by Molly Seligman.
Good evening. I am Bonnie Packer. I'm president of the board of the nonprofit Palo Alto Housing Corporation. As a primary provider of affordable housing in Palo Alto, the Housing Corporation is very concerned about the fate of the residents of the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. These residents are our neighbors, our workforce, and the backbone of our community, and add much needed diversity to our city. At the Housing Corporation, we know firsthand that the need for housing for low-income families and individuals is great. In fact, the need is huge. Today, there are simply no available affordable units in Palo Alto for the Buena Vista residents to go to. The Housing Corporation's 700 affordable units are virtually all occupied, and there are hundreds of folks on our wait lists, and the wait on those lists can be 5 years or more. And the current anti-density climate in Palo Alto is making it very difficult to plan for more affordable housing within our boundaries. So if the park closes, where are the Buena Vista residents to go? Your role during this hearing is to evaluate the relocation benefit package offered by the GISers. In doing so, we hope that you keep in mind the importance of preserving diversity in our community and the critical need to maintain this land in Palo Alto for affordable housing in perpetuity. If the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park is not closed and not sold to a market-rate developer, the Palo Alto Housing Corporation looks forward to collaborating with others to help find a way to keep the Buena Vista families and individuals in our city. Thank you.
Molly Seligman, to be followed by Doria Suma.
Hello, council members. My name is Molly Seligman. I'm a junior at Stanford University studying American Studies. And I'm here today to deeply implore you not to approve this compensation plan. The law requires that the plan adequately mitigate the impact of displacement for the residents of Buena Vista, and this plan does not satisfy that requirement. The payments are not adequate to rent an apartment or buy a mobile home in the Bay Area, which means that residents, if displaced, will lose their homes, their jobs, their children will lose their places in Palo Alto schools, families will split apart, and residents will face potential homelessness. How can any payment compensate for the destruction of the basic rhythms of 400 people's lives? A body that claims to represent its constituents cannot allow these outcomes. I'm from San Francisco, and I watched the displacement of low-income Latino communities that I grew up with and made the city what it was to me. When San Francisco made it clear that it was inhospitable to these community members, I too felt unsafe there. I cannot watch this happen all over again here in my new home in Palo Alto. At Stanford, many of my peers plan to live in the kind of place that may take the place of the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park if it is indeed destroyed. I would be so ashamed if the livelihood of my peers rested on the destruction of 400 people's lives. I'd like you to stand if you're here supporting Buena Vista from Stanford. If you're here supporting Buena Vista at all, please stand. City Council members, we ask you not to approve this inadequate and unjust plan. Thank you. You can sit down.
Doria Suma, to be followed by Edie Keating.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Doria Suma, College Terrace. I'm speaking tonight as a representative of the Steering Committee of Palo Altans for Sensible Zoning, PAZ. Part of PAZ's mission is to maintain quality of life through sensible zoning for all Palo Altans, including, of course, our neighbors at Buena Vista. We appreciate positions on both sides. However, we find that the compensation offered is not adequate for the residents of Buena Vista to be relocated to a comparable community. We urge the Council to work with Santa Clara County and other agencies to find a way to retain 400 valued members of our community. There are no mobile home parks available locally, and the cost of renting a comparable unit within a reasonable proximity for a reasonable period would be much higher than the proposed compensation. We note that over 100 school children would be displaced from the Palo Alto school system. Finally, we believe that there is a moral cost to our entire community from expelling 400 primarily low-income neighbors. Ideally, we should find a way to resolve this issue that retains those valued members of our community and an important low-cost housing resource. If this is not possible, they should at very least be provided realistic compensation. Thank you.
Edie Keating, to be followed by Rabbi Janet Martyr.
As a Palo Alto resident, I thank your predecessors for establishing a mobile home park closure ordinance. As you read earlier, it says, "You shall approve the closure application if the mitigation measures are adequate to mitigate the adverse impacts on the displaced residents, provided that such conditions do not exceed the reasonable costs of relocation." Shouldn't reasonable be based on reality? There is not a nearby mobile home park saying, "Give me 400 people with older trailers." That's a reality. So shouldn't a reality of relocation include purchase of land for a new park? That would be expensive, even if you zoom out 35 miles to Morgan Hill. And for reality of relocation, you need to develop that land to add utilities and choose land that's close to VTA transportation. The current proposal does not include securing a new site to make relocation a realistic possibility. It should. Or alternately, the settlement amounts should be large enough to allow purchase of similar sized mobile homes in existing parks. It should be relocation to somewhere. There is a much bigger budget available before hitting the reasonable relocation limit. And what is the adverse impact to residents? This is not a one-year loss. This is a multi-year loss to all residents. If mobile home spaces were abundant, a one-year transition would fit. As you assess the closure proposal, in the absence of abundant spaces or in the absence of any comparable spaces, you must consider the multi-year economic loss to residents. You are a fair-minded council full of independent thinkers. This is not the Central Valley. This is the Bay Area. This proposed settlement fails to mitigate the full adverse impacts on Buena Vista residents and greatly understates the reasonable cost of relocation. The proposed agreement is inadequate.
Thank you. And Rabbi Janet Martyr, to be followed by Pastor Alex Ponreason.
Good evening. My name is Janet Martyr. I'm the senior rabbi of Congregation Beth Am, a Reformed synagogue, and I live in Barron Park, a 3-minute walk from Buena Vista. My life is grounded in a biblical principle expressed in the book of Leviticus: love your neighbor as yourself. Jewish tradition understands this verse to refer to action and motivation. Love your neighbor as yourself means show care for your neighbor, act in behalf of your neighbor, and want the same things for your neighbor that you want for yourself. I want my neighbors at Buena Vista to have the same things I want for myself, my own children and my little granddaughter, to live in a safe community with excellent schools, good social services, medical facilities, and cultural enrichment. As I understand it, that is the purpose of affordable housing. It's not just about ensuring diverse neighborhoods, though that is important. It's about creating opportunity for those who live near the bottom of the economic ladder, giving people who have few material resources the chance to make a better life for themselves and their children. Buena Vista is a precious resource in Palo Alto. This small island of affordable housing is the cradle of security and opportunity for 400 of our hardworking neighbors. The owner's relocation plan is clearly inadequate and does not comply with the law. For these low-income residents, there is no place to go in Palo Alto or any place nearby with comparable resources, no affordable rentals, no mobile homes available for purchase. Forcibly displacing these families without giving them adequate provision to move to a comparable place would be a tragedy, entailing job loss, disruption of multi-generational families, increased poverty and homelessness. In short, the loss of opportunity and the ruin of many lives. Silicon Valley is watching to see what this city council decides. What kind of message will you send about who deserves to live in a place like Palo Alto and who will be shipped out to make room for the wealthy? I'm here tonight for the sake of my neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Pastor Alex Von Riesen, to be followed by Norma Grinch.
Good evening. My name is Alex Van Riesen. I'm Dutch, not German, but no big deal. So I am the lead pastor at the Vineyard Christian Fellowship of the Peninsula. We have been in Palo Alto for close to 30 years. We were founded in 1987 and have met at the Cubberley Community Center for the past 27 years. There are a number of folks who live in Buena Vista who attend our congregation, and knowing them and talking about this with them, I know the displacement that they would experience were Buena Vista to be closed. We've all heard the stories here tonight. I'm struck and again over and over by the thing that sits before you, and I don't envy you in the position that you're in, but what strikes me is that really the future of Palo Alto is what is being decided in this issue. I must add my voice to reject the proposal that's been made, not only because it is unjust financially, but it's really unjust morally. We are to be a community that allows opportunities. I think to hear the stories tonight, what I am most struck by is that actually future generations are actually being given the chance to change and to provide for their future and their future families. With the widening gap between the rich and the poor in the United States, what we're seeing in Buena Vista is actually a working model of something that's actually transferring wealth and opportunity to a new generation. I implore you tonight, with the resources that others have mentioned that exist in this community, to find a way for Palo Alto to procure and allow Buena Vista to remain open for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Van Riesen, and apologies. Norma Grinch, to be followed by Jeffrey Wrench.
Good evening, council members. I'm here tonight as a representative from First Congregational Church, Palo Alto. And I have just a few points to make. Our church of 700 members has been closely watching the process of possible closure of Buena Vista. We've watched this unfold over a period of 2+ years. Many of us have stood in solidarity with the residents of Buena Vista, expressing our deep desire that they continue to be our neighbors in this community. We are hopeful that the offers of funds from the county and the city will provide a mechanism to make the Buena Vista parcel a deed-restricted location for below-market rate housing. Our church considers this a justice issue.
Thank you. Jeffrey Wrench, to be followed by Joy Sleazer. I hope that's right.
Mayor Holman and council members. My name is Jeff Wrench. I live in Barron Park, and I speak as a member of All Saints Church a few blocks that way. Our rector, Terry Gleason, wanted to speak tonight very much, but was called away to a conference. Our take on Buena Vista is that the residents of this park are well-valued and beloved neighbors. The issue of whether they should stay in our city is not a legal issue, but a basic issue of humanity. Of course they should stay. They live here. Our visionary supervisor, Joe Simidian, has led the way to an effective solution to this issue together with city manager Jim Keene. All parties will win if the community can raise enough money so that the owner can receive a fair price while the land can be retained as affordable housing and the residents retained as the hardworking neighbors they are. In the short term, Council's duty would be to uphold the appeal, so that this issue can remain open and receive a solution that benefits everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joyce Sleazer, I hope that's correct. Apologies. If you'll correct it, please, that would be great, to be followed by Chris London.
It's Slizer. I'm Joyce Slizer. I'm a member of First Presbyterian Church, and I've also lived in Palo Alto for over 50 years. I, along with many others here this evening, also feel that the owner's relocation payment package does not come close to satisfying the need. Also, the law on comparable community. The same question that I asked at the May hearing is, what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? I see a long list of losses. I see loss of diversity. I see loss of affordable housing. I see loss of jobs. And we heard that tonight. There are several people who live in Buena Vista who do, in fact, work in our community. I see loss of their community and loss of their jobs. I'm delighted tonight to hear that Palo Alto Housing might step up. I hope that there's a sliver of compassion in this decision. Thank you.
Chris London, to be followed by a person speaking for a group, which would be Ken Dauber.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Chris London, a Palo Alto resident and a lifelong member of St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Community of Palo Alto. You might know that our parish is comprised of 3 churches, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Albert the Great, and Our Lady of the Rosary. We have 1,800 registered families in our parish. You might not know that we have 50 Buena Vista residents as regular parishioners, men, women, and children. Those parishioners largely attend our 9 a.m. Spanish Mass on Sunday morning at Our Lady of the Rosary. Please imagine the loss of 15% of that worshiping community as if Buena Vista closes. Imagine the hole in the congregation. Imagine the loss of economic and cultural diversity if Buena Vista closes, to our Barron Park schools, to Gunn High School, to the city. How do you explain to children why their classmates or church mates are gone? Imagine 400 individuals being told no. Imagine 9 individuals being told, here's some money, find a new place to live. Not sure where that might be. You might try the Central Valley. Find some good schools. Find a new church where you can worship. Good luck. The relocation plan, as put forth, is insufficient. Buena Vista residents will not be able to relocate to a comparable community. I urge the City Council to continue working with the county and federal authorities to come up with a plan to save the affordable housing provided by the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park, and to save our parishioners and their families and friends from this forced relocation. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Ken Dauber, who will be speaking for 7 or 8 minutes, and who will be speaking for Tom Wessow, Cheryl Fuller, Don Anderson, Jerry Underdahl, and Kim Brandenberger. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Ken Dauber. I'm a member of the Palo Alto School Board, but I'm here as a resident tonight as a resident of Barron Park and a longtime neighbor of the Buena Vista families and school children. And there are 2 points that I'd like to make to you. The first is that it's clear under the city's ordinance that the city council is required to consider the value of the schools in Palo Alto in considering the level of compensation. The second is that it's clear that the value of our schools is extremely high and that the failure of the compensation offered to include that value means that the City Council should reject this compensation offer. The ordinance says that owners must provide a lump sum of compensation that's based on the cost of renting a space and purchasing a home in a comparable mobile home park. And that's taken from the ordinance. Turning to the definition of a comparable mobile home park, that definition has three elements. The first is that the park is a similar age and amenities, for example, similar laundry facilities, similar lighting. The second element is that the park be located in a community that is, quote, similar to that in which the park is located, that is to Palo Alto. And the third element is that the park have access to various amenities that are similar to those in Palo Alto, such as shopping, medical services, and so forth. No one in Palo Alto, I think, would define similar community, as in the second element, in a way that does not include the value of our schools. We have, as many of the speakers have noted, some of the best schools in the state. Our secondary schools are probably some of the best in the country. So a definition of similarity in that second element that excludes that value is inadequate. I would like to point out that since these are separate elements, the list of amenities in that third element of shopping, medical services, et cetera, is not only not exhaustive, but it's really irrelevant to the definition of a similar community under the second element. I also would like to point out that this language is mandatory for the City Council. So the inclusion of schools in thinking about compensation and determining compensation is required in determining similarity. And so I'd also suggest to you that the invitation of the park owners to look at legislative history is really irrelevant. You have an extremely clear ordinance to interpret, and it clearly requires that you determine the content of similarity. Turning for a moment to the value of our schools, one point is obvious, which is that the real estate values in Palo Alto are higher than in surrounding areas precisely because of the value of schools. In fact, real estate ads in Palo Alto often name the school that housing entitles you to. And the reason for that is quite clear if you look at the level of funding for our schools and also the level of performance. Palo Alto spends over $14,000 per student, while the next largest unified district in Santa Clara County, or the next highest in Santa Clara County, which is Santa Clara Unified, spends a little over $9,000. In fact, we spend more per student than any other large unified district in the state and have the highest teacher salaries of any large unified district in the state. How does this translate into the education that is available to the parents of Buena Vista for their children? Palo Alto is also at or near the top in relation to neighboring districts in terms of how well we do in providing education specifically to Latino students, which is the majority of students in Buena Vista. In terms of preparation for college, for example, the graduation rate for Latino students in Palo Alto is 89% versus 68% countywide. The dropout rate for Latino students is 8% versus 21% for all of Santa Clara County. 55% of Latino students in PAUSD graduate ready to go to a public university, which is more than twice the average rate in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. In terms of the overall API for Latino students, for the last year that API scores were calculated, PAUSD had the highest API scores for Latino students of any district in Santa Clara or San Mateo counties. 97% of Latino 8th grade students in Palo Alto are enrolled in algebra, which is again one of the highest rates in Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. In fact, the average for those two counties is 24% versus 97% for our schools. Sunnyvale, for example, has 25% of its 8th grade Latino students enrolled in algebra. So not only is the City Council, I think, obviously required to assess the similarity of communities when assessing compensation, that similarity clearly has to include the value of education, both in terms of the cost of housing, but also in terms of the specific benefit that these families receive by virtue of the fact that they live in Palo Alto. That is, for Latino students and Latino parents, Palo Alto is a particularly important place to be and has particular value, and replacing that value would be particularly difficult. So for those reasons, I think it's clear that the City Council is required to assess the value of the schools and is required to reject this compensation because it does not adequately compensate these residents for the loss of that value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dauber. Camille Townsend, to be followed by Terry Godfrey.
Greetings. I am Camille Townsend. I am here because I am on the Palo Alto Board of Education, and I'm here to share why the Palo Alto Board of Education passed a statement of support for the Buena Vista Home Park students and families. At the Board of Education meeting, almost 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, March 12, 2013, PAUSD students and graduates who reside in the Buena Vista Home Park publicly notified the school board that their mobile home park was possible to foreclosure. They urged the school district to help them find a way for the families to continue to live in Palo Alto and for the children to continue attending PAUSD schools. The Gunn graduates in particular spoke eloquently of the importance of their Palo Alto Unified education and advocated for the same educational opportunity for their younger siblings and family members. We know that of the 375 people who live at the mobile home park, 125 were children. This was presented to us 2 years ago. Of those children, 103 were Palo Alto Unified School Districts currently enrolled in Barron Park, Juana Briones, Terman, and Gunn. 22 children were of preschool age, and 12% of our Barron Park Elementary School students live at Buena Vista. Given the above, the Palo Alto Unified School Board of Education recognized the importance of the testimony, the experience, and the advocacy of the Gunn graduates on the behalf of the students currently living in the mobile home park as they continue to seek their PAUSD education. We recognize the valuable opportunities and outcomes for the PAUSD education as reported by the graduates, and of course that you've heard tonight. The school board policy 0100, which states that the diversity of the student population and staff enriches the learning experience for all students. For all of these reasons, the board affirms our commitment to the Buena Vista students, to their education, and to their future. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry Godfrey, to be followed by Sue Eldridge.
Hi, my name is Terry Godfrey. I've lived in Palo Alto since 1999. I have 2 kids at Palo Alto High School, and I am a member of the Board of Education. The support from the school board of Buena Vista families predates my election to the board last fall, but I want to be sure that you know how much I value our Buena Vista students and how personally connected I feel to their experience. As a child, my parents were solidly middle class in a time where you didn't need a college degree to do that. My dad was an air conditioning mechanic. My mom was a secretary. We had a house. We had 2 cars. It was good. When I was 10, my dad left, leaving my mom a single mom with a mortgage she couldn't afford and a house she couldn't take care of. For her, the way out was education. She sold the house, bought the smallest house in the best school district she could afford, and told me, with all due respect to the men in this room, an education is the only thing a man can't take when he leaves. Go to school, do your best, don't find yourself in this situation. I took that advice. We moved to an affluent area with a good school district, and sometimes it was uncomfortable to be in class with those affluent kids, but I got a good education, and I was surrounded by kids who were going to college, and that made a big difference. I was swept up in that tide, and I went to UC Irvine, got a bachelor's degree in math. I went to UCLA, I got an MBA. I hung out with Councilmember Phil Seth, who was in my class, got a job, had some great jobs, made some money, and then felt like I needed to give back to public education. When I think of the students from the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park in our schools, I'm very grateful they're there, not just because of the individuals that they are, but because of the voices they bring. Their parents want for them what my mom wanted for me, just to do better and to be able to give back. Decades from now, they'll be there. They'll be sitting on the school board, and they'll be bringing up their kids and doing great things for the generation behind them. They bring value to our city today. They bring value to our city in the future. I know you have a hard decision before you. Do what you can to keep them here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Sue Eldridge, to be followed by Nancy Kropp.
Nancy isn't able to be here tonight. She has back problems. Hello, I'm Sue Eldridge, and I'm speaking to you tonight as a representative of the Palo Alto PTA Council's Buena Vista Advocacy Committee. I'm also a parent in the Barron Park Elementary School community concerned with the future of 12% of our students that live in the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. 1 in every 8 students at Barron Park lives in Buena Vista. My daughter's in 5th grade, and she's grown up with the Buena Vista students, many of the children you've heard today speak, since kindergarten. As a school community, we value these children and their families, and we care deeply about their futures. I've been active in advocating for Buena Vista students and their families as the co-chair of the PTA Council's Buena Vista Advocacy Committee since the fall of 2012, when the Jizzers announced their desire to sell the park. As you know, the PTAC Council is composed of representatives from all 17 schools in the district. The PTA's mission is to support the whole child, supporting everything it takes for each child to succeed. And that necessarily includes access to safe, affordable housing, quality medical care services, and healthy nutritional meals, all amenities within the district. Immediately, the PTA Council unanimously moved to set up a committee to study the Buena Vista issue and how it affects all of the students in Palo Alto. The committee not only understood the impact on the 100 Buena Vista students that stood to lose access to continued Palo Alto education, but we recognized the loss to all of the students that benefit every day from the economic, racial, and cultural diversity that enriches our schools. Thereafter, the PTA Council passed a motion that supports keeping our Buena Vista students in the school. Most notably, the motion states that finding affordable housing options within the district boundaries should be the means to ensure that Buena Vista students can remain a part of our community. This is a recognition that rent subsidies will not enable these students to remain in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Winter Dellenbach, sorry for the lack of notice. Winter Dellenbach, to be followed by Gail Price.
When I first asked my neighbors in Barron Park over an email list in September of 2012 if anybody else was concerned, because we had just heard that the residents of Buena Vista had gotten a notice that the park might be closed, if anyone else was concerned about that along with me. And in one weekend, 12 of us, there were 12 of us that responded that way. And when I send out notices now, probably way too often, to Buena Vista supporters, I have to scroll down and keep going and going and going and going down the email address list. There are so many people in this town, so many organizations, so many people at Stanford that support Buena Vista. I just want to say just a couple other things. I've read almost every document associated with Buena Vista, and this relocation plan, as an expert witness said at a hearing back in May last year, that the relocation plan has absolutely no connection to anyone at Buena Vista actually being able to relocate. And that's wrong, and that stops the closing process until there is a reasonable, sound, legal relocation plan. And you need to keep that in mind. I also want to leave you with this. The law is absolutely bankrupt and absolutely meaningless without going about it with humanity. There is no judge anywhere, not in the U.S. Supreme Court and not some justice of the peace, that ever makes a decision, a legal decision, that doesn't bring him or her whole self to it. And you're going to do that same thing. And the notion of being fair can't overcome the fact that you're human beings and you got to bring it. You got to bring humanity to this decision as you're looking at the law. Thank you.
Gail Price, to be followed by Michael Morgenstern.
Good evening. It's nice to be back. My name is Gail Price. I live at 4082 Orm Street. I'm a proud member of the Barron Park community and a member of the Friends of Buena Vista. Since leaving the City Council, I only attend meetings or speak on issues and send emails about issues of critical concern to me that have important implications for the community. The future of Buena Vista and its residents is one of those issues. I'd also like to acknowledge the wonderful eloquence of everyone who's spoken here tonight, particularly the residents and the children of Buena Vista. As you know, one of your focus areas this year is a healthy community. A healthy community means physically healthy, mental health issues being a sense of well-being and connectedness. It means that you treasure your neighborhood, you're part of a community. So the decisions and all of the discussion that continues to go on is directly related to one of your focus areas, which you adopted in January. I believe the relocation is very insufficient, as other people have spoken. For one thing, money will never compensate fully for all of the services, opportunities, and great schools that are available here in Palo Alto. In fact, no amount of money will compensate for dislocation, loss of community, separation of families, the stress of job losses, the stress of job searches, and the mental and physical toll due to extended duress and stress which the residents experience. I would also imagine that the property owner is probably expressing and experiencing considerable stress as well. So the ongoing struggle will result in more and more litigation, and it's a lose-lose situation. As a city, I believe we can do better. We are innovative. We can come up with a solution that is bold. Our decisions and policies and practices should be in alignment. And I know you will come up with a solution that makes sense, and these issues and values will be part of your decision regarding Buena Vista. Find a just and fair solution. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome back. Michael Morgenstern, to be followed by Rick Toker.
My name is Michael Morgenstern. I'm a retired engineering manager. I live in Professorville and have lived in Palo Alto since 1979. That's 35 years. I'd like to address the issue of education. The law states that mobile home residents must be able to move to a comparable community, which means comparable schools. Palo Alto is rated to have the third best schools in the state. Communities in Northern California with excellent schools are not affordable. So, for the Buena Vista children to receive a comparable education, they would need to go to private schools. Of the 84 children in Buena Vista, and my numbers come from Dr. Kenneth Barr's report. I understand the numbers are higher than I have here, but that serves the example. Of the 84 children, 31 are in elementary school, 18 in middle school, 15 in high school, and 17 are not yet in school. A private school education through high school at a current cost of $21,000 per year for these 84 children amounts to more than $14 million. And this doesn't include any factor for inflation over the period of time, which can be many years. There are 13 years of school, so for people not entering, that's a big number. And also I have the number of students a little on the low side. I would maintain that if you include those factors, you'd be talking something close to $25 million in compensation for the education component alone. I urge the Council to include adequate compensation for equivalent education. But second, if we take the amount a developer would pay for this property and subtract fair total compensation for the current residents, including education, we arrive at what the Gissers would net. And I would suggest that the $16 million set aside collectively by Palo Alto and Santa Clara County would then be sufficient to provide the same net amount to the Gissers because there would be no relocation expenses for the Gissers to bear. Thank you.
Rick Toker, to be followed by Chuck Jacoda.
Good evening, members of the Council. As others have expressed much better than I believe that the proposed relocation mitigation plan is totally inadequate. Beyond that, if this closure should go through, it would be the greatest forced relocation of people out of Palo Alto in the city's history. And I believe that would greatly besmirch an excellent reputation that the city has earned over such a long period of time. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." Thank you.
Chuck Jacoda, to be followed by Amara Padilla.
Good evening, members of the City Council. I'm a proud member of Stop the Ban, Downtown Streets team, Neighbors, Helping Neighbors, and the Heart and Home Collaborative, but I come here tonight as a member of the extended family of Buena Vista. My children play with children who live in Buena Vista, go to school with them. I've stayed at Buena Vista. It's not just a support mechanism for the people who live there. There is an extended family of which I'm a member of other people in the community who benefit from Buena Vista's presence here. It is an important source of diversity. I hope and can't imagine otherwise than you doing the right thing, as so many people have so eloquently argued tonight. It doesn't, the plan that's been submitted doesn't satisfy the requirements of the law. For that reason, you have to do the right thing. And the arc of morality of Palo Alto may turn slowly, but it turns in the right direction. You accidentally passed the vehicle habitation ban, but you came around, you changed your mind. Don't do it wrong and then try to reconstruct this later. Be way too disruptive for all the people. I'm sure you'll do the right thing the first time. Thank you.
Amado Padilla, to be followed by Sibel Lavola Bashan.
Good evening. My name is Amado Padilla. I'm a longtime resident of Palo Alto. I'm also professor and chair of the program in developmental and psychological sciences in the Graduate School of Education at Stanford. And let me say that I'm also very humbled to be here tonight and to speak on behalf of the residents of Buena Vista, especially the children who spoke so eloquently. I think we have educated them very well. Just to have the bravery of coming up and speaking so eloquently, I think was just marvelous. I've been involved in various ways with Buena Vista since early 2013. I'm not going to go through the list of things I've done on behalf of that community. I just want to say that in the time that I've been involved with the Buena Vista residents, I've visited with families in their homes. I've spoken to teens that attend Gunn High School, as well as teens who have graduated. I've attended formal and informal gatherings of the park residents and met with educators in the community to learn more about the 100 or so children who attend Palo Alto schools. So I feel like I know the community very well. Parents with children in Buena Vista have the same American dream that we all have for our children. They want them to be healthy, they want them to benefit from a good education, and they want them to succeed in this country. As pointed out in this chamber and in other venues, if the park closes, everyone living in Buena Vista loses. They lose their home, For many, this also means that loss of their employment in the community, accessibility to public transportation, health care providers, and certainly for the children, loss of excellent schools and educational opportunities that most likely they could not be replicated anywhere else. The residents of Buena Vista enrich our community with their presence and their labor. The children enrich our schools with their diversity and commitment to learning, and we've seen much of that tonight. We have a moral obligation to ensure that all residents of Buena Vista, including children, have access to quality education that will take them to the next level of achieving their American dream, and that is college and career readiness. The children belong to our village, and the council's decision about the future of Buena Vista must be fair for all, including children. There is much at stake in these hearings, and fairness must prevail in the relocation plan, and ideally, hopefully, keeping the children and their families here. I see these hearings as a litmus test for the future inclusiveness of this community and who can live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Isabella Vola-Buchan, to be followed by Kristen Anderson.
Hi, Bella Vola-Buchan. Just about everything's been said, so I'm going to be brief. I'm just going to say these are our neighbors, these are our children, community spoken. They want them to stay here, and as Gail Price said, there'll be a way. Just please find it. Thank you.
Kristen Anderson, to be followed by Lydia Koo.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kristen Anderson. I'm a 10-year resident of College Terrace. As previous speakers have stated, the Palo Alto Municipal Code for Mobile Home Park Conversion states that a comparable mobile home park is, quote, located in a community similar to that in which the park that is being closed is located, and has similar access to community amenities such as shopping, medical services, recreational facilities, and transportation. The owner is not complying with this code. He has not identified any such community because there is none. The owner has simply offered relocation costs, which will not cover the devastating cost to the lives of 400 of our citizens. To suddenly evict 400 people, members of our community, from their longtime homes and essentially leave them no place to go is immoral and it is illegal. You do have the power to make the right decision, and I don't think it's a difficult decision. Of course, if Mr. Gisser no longer wants to run the park, he is free to sell it, just not to close it. Thank you.
Lydia Koo, to be followed by Mark Weiss.
Good evening, Mayor Holman and council members. My name is Lydia Koo. I'm a Palo Alto resident, and I live in the Barron Park neighborhood. By profession, I am a residential realtor and have sold homes in town for 18 years. I can personally attest to the fact that our excellent schools are a prime selling point. Our fine schools are of the essence of what makes Palo Alto special, a special and desirable place to live, fueling our high housing costs. Last year in September, Palo Alto local news media reported our high schools are ranked in the top 60 in the nation based on achievement scores and college readiness. Another well-known website, greatschools.org, Palo Alto schools, that's from kindergarten to 12th grade. The schools are rated from a scale of 1 to 10 and rated as 10s and 9s. That's pretty high. And it's not compatible in most of the cities that are within the relocation ratio. Buena Vista families know that the excellent education Palo Alto offers is their pathway to a brighter future. If forced to leave, it would be a devastating loss for these families for which they should be fairly compensated, and we know the relocation package is simply not that. And it should be compensated according to the values of this area. Better yet, the city needs to do all it can to ensure residents won't be forced from their homes and schools. As a resident and a community member, I want to be reassured and know that the city has conducted its due diligence in its mobile home park conversion ordinance that states that it will develop long-term strategies for preservation of the park, that it will assure community participation, that the owners in the city will act through the mayor and shall cooperate to establish a special committee comprising of the representatives, the owners and the individual mobile homeowners and other community representatives to address community needs and concerns related to long-term affordable housing preservation strategies. In the housing element, it states that the city is to provide leadership in addressing homelessness as a regional issue. Please don't contribute to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark Weiss to be followed by Bob Moss.
Thank you. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Mark. Mark is first, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. I'm Mark Weiss. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is of the documents, I think there's a flaw in the HBU report, the highest and best use, in that I believe it ignores or undervalues the covenant we have with these people, and it creates an unrealistic valuation. I'm referring to a document from April 18th, 2013 from Smith & Associates, and their device of a hypothetical value. I think it's inappropriate and it's caused a lot of damage. I really think we could have settled this a long time ago and just brokered a deal as Mr. Simidian and eventually the city is saying we maybe can do. I think the press has kind of run with this. I'm a little disappointed in the press. I think they fanned the flames. I think they have kind of a pro-developer bias. And another flaw I saw is the press at least has blurred the distinction between the ownership entities. The current owners have held the property, it's an LLC, since about 2000, as distinct from a family with a similar name that bought in around 1986. I think somehow that is a significant point and is warping our sense of this. Mostly I agree with what John Barton and Paul George of the Peninsula Peace and Justice Center said, also Barton, our former council member, PAWS member and architect. Who are we if we let our neighbors here be pushed out like this? And my point is, what has changed since we created this covenant? I think it's like in the 1964 period when we cut that deal. And I submit that we will really not be the same if we let this happen to our neighbors, our brothers, our family members like this. In fact, I'm wondering if we would have to change our name even. Palo Alto is named for a tall, strong oak. Palo, and I'm wondering if we let this happen, are we really Palo Alto? Maybe we're Palo Corto, Palo Bajo, Palo Flacido, Mayfield, May Not Field. Why are we so ambivalent here? The moral choice is very clear. The will of the people is very, very clear. Leviticus, as my rabbi said, love your neighbor. Also, Book of Matthew says, that which you've done for the least of my brethren, so have you done for me. Please, with Buena Vista.
Thank you. Now you're up, Bob. Bob Moss to be followed by Ellen Forbes.
I was just too eager. First, I'd like to urge you to reject the proposal for payments for the trailer park modules. It's grossly inadequate. When it comes to housing values, any realtor will tell you there are three things that are important: location, location, and location. And in getting the value of the trailer park, they looked at trailer parks in places like Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara. That's not equal to Palo Alto. For the last 5 years, Palo Alto has had the highest median sales price for homes in the entire country. So the offer is inadequate, and it's got to be taken back and made reasonable. That's the first problem. The second problem is that it was based on values from 2012, 2011. And in that time, home values nationally, certainly in the Bay Area, have gone up between 30 and 45%. In Palo Alto, they've gone up more than 50%. So again, that's not taken into account in the offers. So for that reason alone, the offer should be rejected. Now there are some problems, of course, with Buena Vista because it represents about 10% of all the BMR housing we've created in Palo Alto in the last 35 years, and we don't want to lose that. It also is important because it preserves a lot of minorities who are basing their dreams and hopes on being in Palo Alto for themselves and their children. But we have a way that we might be able to save Buena Vista. 2 words: eminent domain. You can start that. You've got $8 million from the county that's been offered you. The city manager's found $8 million. The Housing Corporation made over $7 million profit selling the Maybell site. They should have some money left over. Seize the property and save the housing.
Ellen Forbes, to be followed by Jennifer Munoz-Tello.
Good evening, Mayor Holman and council members. My name is Ellen Forbes. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto, and my comments will be brief. In a time of critical shortage of affordable housing in the Bay Area, the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto urges you to proceed on the issue of the potential Buena Vista closure with statesmanship and a vision of our community's future health. Although there has been pressure for continuing adversarial litigation, we feel that negotiation is more likely to produce a solution that benefits all parties involved. The city manager has already pledged a significant amount of money to preserve affordable housing at this site, and the county has done the same. We believe that community partnerships under your leadership may be able to purchase the land at a reasonable price for the owner and retain it for the affordable housing we sorely need. At the same time, this mutual effort can retain the park's families and children as our neighbors and maintain a healthy diversity in our schools and neighborhoods. We hope you will seek out a solution that benefits everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Jennifer Munoz-Tello, to be followed by John Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Munoz-Tello. I am in the 8th grade art term in middle school, and I plan on going to Gunn High School next year. I also plan on graduating Gunn and going to college to become a physical therapist. I also hope the same for my 3-year-old sister, the one I'm holding right now, to follow the same steps as me. Go to Barron Park, graduate Barron Park, go to Terman Middle School, graduate Terman Middle School, and go to Gunn High School. I've been living in the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park for almost 3 years, and it hurts me very much to see that the owner is planning to sell the land. I'd also hope for all of you guys to put yourselves in our shoes. How would you guys feel if your home was taken away? It wouldn't feel nice, would it? Finally, I'd like to thank all the people that are supporting us and supporting all the students that are here. Like, I know it's not easy for all of us, and it's not easy for our parents, because I think almost all the parents want a good education for their children, and it's hard if you're getting moved to another place, because Palo Alto Unified School District is one of the best districts. There's a lot of programs to help you with your homework. That I am in Dreamcatchers, and I'm going to college track next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And John Kelly, to be followed by Jennifer Wells.
Mayor Holman, Vice Mayor Schmidt, council members. It's rare that I've ever been here and seen this much unanimity in the council chambers. So I'm very confident tonight you're going to do the right thing. Yeah, I don't see how you couldn't be moved by, especially the testimony that's already been offered by the students who would be affected by this decision if for some reason you were to do the wrong thing. So I think the question is, how do you go about making the right decision, which is to reject this relocation plan? And I would like to offer you two specifics. The first is, in the letter that was submitted recently by, I believe it was Margaret Nanda, there's a purported rebuttal to the criticism having to do with the relocation calculations. Item 5 is one that I'd like to draw your particular attention to. It reads, criticism on failure to factor in the location of the park. You have heard from so many people tonight
I'm thinking particularly of what Ken Dauber had to say. I'm thinking also of what the representative Paz had to say, and practically everyone who's spoken here. There's no way that people living here don't value education highly. I would submit to you that the differential is probably at least an order of magnitude. So if you think that $29,000 or $30,000 is going to compensate people for the loss of education benefits here, I would submit that the number is probably closer to $250,000, if not $500,000. That's an easy way to take action. The second thing I'd ask you to do is to think about equity, not as a matter of fairness or morality alone, but as a matter of law. You're acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, and I believe that in that capacity, you have the power to do what's right, to take action, to take equitable action, and keep Buena Vista open. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Jennifer Wells, to be followed by C. Reddy.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Wells. I'm a professor of sociology. I salute you for your time and service to the community. I think there is no adequate relocation package and no comparable scenario for the lives of these people. I want to just take a second to look at the big picture. So many people have said such valuable things that I want to reiterate. I focus a lot on issues like climate and energy and what really maintains social resilience. And one of the things that I found after thinking about social resilience for 25 years or so is the stability in a location and the ties of community are extremely important over time. This is an opportunity to allow what's already largely an intact and healthy community to continue to exist, which can be very valuable not just to them but to the entire community. There's a lot of broader considerations. If we think about the various broader issues that are impacting us, climate, drought, fracking, energy turmoil generally, the cost of mass commuting, mass airplane flights, the ecological footprints of luxury homes as opposed to affordable, humble homes. All of these issues will play into this over time, and I want to suggest that it impacts not just the people immediately involved, but really does impact all of us. This is a microcosm example of choice, of which the many thousands of such choices make up part of the picture of our energy and our humane or less humane future. So I just suggest you to consider the overall impacts. Just as one example, it seems to me it would be interesting to look up statistics on how many people working in many jobs throughout Palo Alto commute long distances to come here. Some people who have spoken tonight said that they're staff at Stanford, and if they were not there, would it be people driving from Modesto? Thank you.
C. Reddy, to be followed by Stephanie Munoz.
Good evening. I equate this action of relocation to what happened to the Jews in the 1939 to 44 timeframe. So this is as bad as that. Today happens to be the day the Holocaust activities, I think they're commemorating. So why is that? We live in one world. You know, this was a Spanish colony 200-300 years ago, and the white man came with the guns from England and then started to, you know, kill the local Indians, and then somehow somebody conned them into giving up this land, you know, California was given. So we're all in the same boat. I think this is very unfair to relocate these people. They, you know, all this thing about, you know, they're Hispanic, they're this, I think put that aside. They're humans. We all need to keep them here. We have the obligation to keep them here. The children are here. They're going to equally succeed, just like, you know, Rubio, who's running for president today. So please consider that. And I think we need to have a moratorium on greed. There's a lot of greed in this town for the last 4 years. I think we need to contain that, and then let them stay peacefully, and then you will benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie Munoz, to be followed by Marcelino Zaveos.
Good evening, Mayor Holman and council members. I'd like to respectfully suggest that the appraiser has ignored some stakeholders in Buena Vista, that is, the taxpayers of Palo Alto. To the actual homeowners who put up the investment, the value might be, say, $3 million in all. But to us, the taxpayers of Palo Alto, those houses are worth more like $13 million because that's what it would take to replace the affordable housing that they represent, those houses. And we're getting closer and closer to the day when the state is pushing and pushing and pushing to make the towns have housing in proportion to the jobs they have. It was okay when it was just Palo Alto, but now Mountain View is just going along gangbusters on the same path, and the other towns aren't stupid. So I would say you have to do that, and you should consider the history of this property also. Until Proposition 13, each succeeding wave of immigrants was able to push out the other, the former one. But when Proposition 13 came along, Palo Alto's effort at rezoning them ahead of time didn't work out very well because the property wasn't automatically reassessed. The assessment all this time has stayed just the same as when the Gissers acquired it. Palo Alto hasn't made a dime from what I would say this council would not have done. But that was how they argued in the earlier Yosine, that you could have these people temporarily and then you could just get rid of them. Don't think you want to do that. Thank you.
Marcelino Zaveos, to be followed by Dick Tran. Marcelino? Not seeing.
Let's see.
Hello, buenas noches.
Good evening.
You might put, excuse me, you might put the microphone where it can catch both of you.
Mi nombre es Marcelino Ceballos.
My name is Marcelino Ceballos.
Ocupo el espacio número 47.
I'm in space number 47.
El año pasado tuvo tres audiencias.
I had 3 hearings.
Estuvimos todos los residentes presentes,
All the residents who were present, all of us,
lo cual no nos tomaron en cuenta nuestra participación.
in which our participation was not taken into account.
Ojalá que en esta vez
I hope that this time
eso no suceda igual.
would not happen the same way.
No somos pájaros que vivimos en los árboles.
We're not birds that live on the trees.
Somos seres humanos
We're human beings,
como cualquier persona.
like any person.
Necesitamos una tranquilidad. No podemos vivir bien
We need to live at ease. We cannot live well
con esta pesadilla del cierre del parque.
with this nightmare, the closure of the park.
No hay argumentos legales suficientes
There's not sufficient legal arguments
para sustentar la aplicación del cierre del parque
to support
de parte de la abogada Melissa.
the closure of the park by Attorney Melissa's,
Poniendo como una evidencia
putting as evidence
legal, le dan la resolución a favor
legal evidence
del propietario para el cierre del parque.
they find in favor of the owner for the closure of the park.
pido
I request
que se anule esa resolución
that that resolution be vacated
en la anterior audiencia con la palabra zonificación
in the previous hearing with the word zonification,
y que se convierta en vivienda de bajos recursos.
and that it be converted to low-income housing.
Como nosotros somos de bajos recursos,
Since we are
solicitamos
low-income, we request
su comprensión de ustedes,
that your understanding,
por favor,
please,
humanamente tomen en cuenta nuestra participación
that
de
you
todos nosotros.
humanely take into account all of our participation.
Para terminar esto, yo quisiera
To finish this,
suplicarle
I would like to plead with you
de una manera muy especial
in a very special manner
que realmente aquí en la reunión los residentes
that it really, in this meeting, the residents,
somos de diferentes partes,
we're from different places.
inclusive aquí los que están presentes
Even here now, the ones that are present
también son legales residentes
are also legal residents,
y también son de Estados Unidos porque son nacidos en este país
and
hombres
they're
y
also
mujeres
from the United States. They're born in this country, male and female.
que ya son madres de familia, padres de familia.
They're mothers and fathers to their families.
Por favor,
Please,
yo quiero
I
una
want
vez más suplicarle a usted
to plead one more
de
time
encontrar
that you find
la justicia
justice
en sus manos de ustedes.
in your hands.
Que si no encontramos esto, solicitaremos
That if we don't find this, we will request
al señor gobernador
from the governor
que se haga presente
that he
a donde nosotros vivimos
come to the place we live
para que realmente vea la situación de nosotros.
so he can look at our situation in reality.
Y a través de esto,
And by means of this,
en la Cámara de Diputados,
in the
en la Cámara de Senadores,
senators, the chamber,
hay tantísimas personas de diferentes lugares
there are so many people from so many different places
que ocupan el cargo
that have their charge
como diputados, como senadores,
as senators,
igual en la Casa Blanca.
also in the White House.
Nos obligaremos de solicitar también a ellos
We'll be forced to
y haremos llegar
come to them with our request,
nuestra petición
and we'll make our
a la Corte Superior,
supplication
Corte
before the
Suprema.
Superior Court, the Supreme Court.
y por favor
So please
tome en cuenta.
take it into
Muchísimas
account.
gracias por
Thank
su
you very
atención.
much for your attention.
Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Tran to be followed by Aram James, which is the last card I have.
Good evening, council members. My name is Dick Tran. I live in the Studio 1C at the Buena Vista Park. First, I would like to thank you with great attitude for all your attention and effort and time you have provided to find the best possible solution to the families of the Buena Vista. We, as a family of four, we came to this spot since December 15, 2005, more than 9 years ago. We came to the park to live for many main reasons, economic and educational. First, my wife and I, we found a job in Palo Alto in October 2004. The park is close to our working place. The rent is affordable. But most importantly, for the future of our two dear children, being able to live in Palo Alto, they have access to the excellent education to the elementary school, middle, and high school. On a very positive note, our first daughter graduated from Hoover School, Elementary School, JLS Middle School, Gunn High School, went to UC San Diego, and currently work in New York at one famous international fashion house. I am speaking tonight not for me, not for my wife. I am 69 years old, but I'm speaking for our daughters, our second daughter, and also for young children at school age. Going to Palo Alto is not only to live, but to be able to access to education, which is a foundation for the future. And to that, I make an appeal to council members to look into that, a solution for us to be able to stay around and to get access to that education. Thank you very much.
And thank you. And our final speaker this evening is Aram James.
Almost lifelong resident of Barron Park and still a homeowner in Barron Park, I can tell you that what makes that community is diversity. And I know that I raised two boys of color in the Barron Park community, and it was often difficult for them when they didn't see other kids from diverse backgrounds. So I know personally that it would rip the heart out of our community if Buena Vista has to close. So I'm going to ask you to remember a couple of things. One is, I'm not sure I would have picked you, not because you're not good people, as the jurors in this case, because you all look like me and you all have an economic background like I do, upper middle class white folks. And so you're going to be judged very carefully. I'm going to ask you to put yourself in the shoes of the people that are in the Buena Vista mobile home. That's a tough challenge, both in their shoes economically, but also look at it from their background. And I'm convinced when you do that, you're going to make a decision not just based on the law, but also, as so many other folks have said here tonight, based on justice, because that's really what our community is fundamentally about. I know you will do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It seems like a good time to take a 5-minute break. When we return, the park representatives will be making their presentation.
Madam Mayor, it's the Residents Association who will go first.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant the residents of the park was what I was intending, so okay, yes.
Just to be clear.
Yes, so we'll return in 5 minutes with the residents team making their presentation.
Residents on the Buena Vista issue, they're wearing black shirts that say "Save Our Homes," and we've heard from many people, including a former council member, John Barton, talking about what kind of neighbors would we be if we let these people go to other communities, if they have to relocate to places like Stockton or Modesto without having the benefit of the great Palo Alto schools. So we've heard we heard from many people tonight talking about any kind of a relocation is always a very tough thing to do. Joe Simidian is here tonight. Salem Reddy, Mr. Reddy spoke about the effect of relocation on people in history. Mark Weiss spoke. Many people speaking tonight. What can the council really do about something like this? It's a sale of a land. They don't own the land. Mr. Kelly spoke. Mr. Kelly, who is often been talked about being on the council, but I don't think he ever has. Encouraging them to do the right thing, and he said he's never seen a council so united on such an issue as this. This is an interesting piece in the Palo Alto Weekly on housing by the Weekly staff here. It says, in what could be the decisive battle in a 2.5-year war closing Buena Vista Mobile Park in Palo Alto, the City Council is set to hear an appeal by residents of the El Camino Park Monday and Tuesday. The hearing could cap the long and emotional process since the fall of 2012 that has galvanized the community and thrust Park's residents into the spotlight. A working-class enclave in a city known for sky-high real estate prices, the 4.6-acre mobile home park has for decades provided affordable housing to 400 residents, many of them Hispanic on the lower end of the local income scale. If the council rules that the compensation offered to the residents by the property owner for relocation is sufficient, those residents are expected to be evicted and the park closed. Last fall, a hearing officer concluded that the relocation assistance is enough. Buena Park residents are appealing that decision. The hearing will begin on April 13th at 6 p.m. That's tonight with public comment. Under the rules outlined in recent letter from City Attorney Molly Stump, speakers were allotted 3 minutes each, unless the Mayor Holman further limits the time allocation due to the number of people. I don't believe she's done that, although it is packed tonight. Many people have spoken, but they've been at it since 6 o'clock, so they've kind of moved through a lot of the people that were here, but there's still many more to go as they're on a break right now, as they're going to hear from a different group of residents. I'm Vince Larkin. This is KZSU Stanford. Democracy Live here, Democracy in Action, 90.1 FM KZSU Stanford. The Buena Vista issue is first and foremost and really all about tonight. The council will hear from many, many citizens, and then they will hear some more tomorrow night. A group of 5 or more people at the meeting may select a spokesperson to represent them, in which case a spokesperson will be allowed to speak for up to 10 minutes, according to Stump. Following public comment, the Buena Vista Residents Association will be invited to make a 30-minute presentation, followed by a 10-minute testimony by a witness. The witness for the residents will be Elizabeth Seifel, president of Seifel Consulting. According to a letter from the attorneys for the Residents Association, Seifel has extensive expertise advising public and private sector clients regarding real estate and development matters. Her presentation will outline the unique features of Buena Vista that must be taken into account when identifying comparable housing. The current housing market in the Buena Vista families will have to find comparable housing, and the location and features of alternate housing that would be available to residents based on relocation assistance approved by the hearing officer. The park owner will then be given the same opportunity. This week, the attorney for Gisser family indicated the expert witness for her side will be David Beccaria, whose firm appraised the Buena Vista properties as part of the Gisser's relocation impact report. According to Margaret Nanda, the attorney, the decision called Beccaria as an expert witness and prompted by a recent review commissioned by Residents Association that challenges Beccaria's methodology. Beccaria this week offered a point-by-point response to the critique. Though Beccaria noted that property values have increased since early 2013 when he wrote his reports, he maintained that the firm's reports are valid relative to the effective date of the report. After the presentation and the expert testimony from each side, the council may either proceed directly to hearing each side's 15-minute rebuttal, or it might opt to ask questions and make comments first, followed by the rebuttals. The council deliberation and decision on the appeal will follow. If the meeting extends late Monday night, the council will reconvene the next day, also at 6 p.m., to conclude the hearing. Members of the public will only be allowed to speak at the April 13th meeting. In advance of the hearings, the Weekly has compiled an archive of documents, videos, photos, news articles that illustrate the history and closure process, more recent efforts to coordinate funding, and plans for preserving the park should the council next week rule in favor of the residents. The archive is posted shortly on storyfy.com/Palo Alto Weekly. So we'll see what the council can do as far as dealing with. Certainly, it was John Barton who said, Palo Alto isn't just for the rich people. It shouldn't just be for wealthy people, but all people, especially those people who work in service companies and service at service positions. That it helps. Talked a lot about diversity and why that's important to having them in schools. We had a lot of representatives from the Lutheran churches, the Catholic churches, St. Thomas Aquinas Parish, and an evangelical church, the Christian Vineyard Church, who has some members from Buena Vista at their Cubberley location. St. Thomas Aquinas heard a lot of quotations from Matthew, from the Old Testament and from the New Testament, and from the Beatitudes. So a lot of individual testimonies. We have two translators here who are doing a great job, who help with those who are speaking Spanish and getting that out to all of us here. So the council will continue in just a few minutes when they get back. And this has been quite a night for on quite an emotional subject. I have not heard Joe Simidian speak, but we will see if he speaks. The continuing hearing on the Buena Vista Parks Residents Association appeal and decision relating to the mitigation measures proposed by the mobile parks owner in connection with the closure application for Buena Vista will be tonight, and that will also be tomorrow night, though there will be limited public comment, as is tonight, where we are hearing more about what more personal stories that affect each person and their lives. So the council will be back next Monday night as well for another broadcast of the council. We're on tonight. We'll be back next Monday night, the 20th, April 20th, and that's Utility Advisory Commission study. Also, the 2015 Earth Day report. Public hearing. Finance Committee recommends adoption of revisions to the Green Building Ordinance and Energy Code Ordinance. Discussion and appointment of the council members to the Board of Directors of the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency and the Bay Area Regional Water Financing Authority. There's also will be a closed session for labor. Then Monday the 27th, another council meeting on air here, Democracy in Action. Another Monday night study session, transmittal of proposed capital and operating budgets to the council and forward to Finance Committee for discussion. Comprehensive plan update status and review of existing comprehensive plan goals and vision statements. And after that, there will be a closed session as well. Monday, May 4th, we start May off. Special orders of the day. 7 p.m. broadcast, resolution expressing appreciation to Astor Volkel upon completion of the term as UAC Commissioner. Resolution expressing appreciation to John Melton upon completion of his term as UAC Commissioner. Partner presentation by the Palo Alto Mediation Program. Appointment of applicants to the HRC, PAC, UAC, and the HRB study session. And they will also, on that day, take action on the Buena Vista for findings. So that's that Monday, May the 4th, keys into what you're hearing tonight. Public hearing, appeal of the Planning and Community Environmental Director's architectural review and approval. 4-story mixed-use building with parking facilities on 2 subterranean levels, requested by Ken Hayes Architects on behalf of Kipley Post LP. Replace 2 1-story commercial retail buildings on 11,000 site in downtown commercial zone district located at 429 University Avenue, dependent on the outcome of April 6th. Policy and Services recommendation regarding the Council and Standing Committee minutes. Finance Committee recommendations to adopt 2015-2020 Consolidated Plan, 2016 Plan, and Association 2016 funding allocations, and adopt a resolution approving the use of Community Development Block Grant funds for the fiscal 2016. So that is what we have coming up. Monday, we'll go straight through on Mondays with Democracy in Action here downtown. We, of course, also heard from Stephanie Munoz, who's a housing activist. Bob Moss said, use eminent domain. Just take it. Just take it. Use the eminent domain and give money to the family and just let the people stay there. So how long could something like that be done, though? That's the big question. Could that be done indefinitely? Is there other pieces of land that the city of Palo Alto has that these people could be relocated to? What other options are there if you wanted to go beyond on the box here? Or can they simply block this sale when there has been, the process has already gone through and they said, you know, it is a fair price that they're offering these residents. I mean, this is a free marketplace where, you know, what can you do? You know, everyone knows that when you're renting, it's very tough. You can be, things can happen to you if you don't own your own place. So it gets into tough, bigger, tough decisions down the line. But on the personal, emotional level, you're hearing that tonight. These families being impacted definitely would affect.
Attorney will be making their presentation, and you'll have 30 minutes, as each attorney will. And I understand you're going to include your expert, which will add 10 more minutes to your presentation. Then we will go to the representatives for the Gisser family, the property owners, and they will have 30 minutes. And your expert, as I understand, is going to be testifying tomorrow night, and that's probably where we will conclude this evening. So introduce yourself, if you would, please, and then when your expert is ready to testify, they'll introduce themselves too. So will that be at the beginning, end, or middle?
Towards the beginning.
Towards the beginning.
I'll introduce my group, and then our expert will speak, and then one of our attorneys will make the rest of the presentation.
Okay, all right, good. So once your expert witness starts, then we'll time for 10 minutes, and then we'll revert to the 30 minutes. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kira Kazantzis. I'm a directing attorney at the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. Together with our pro bono co-counsel, Sidley Austin, and the public interest law firm Western Center on Law and Poverty, we proudly represent the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park Residents Association. Our presentation will include testimony by Libby Seifel, our expert, and legal analysis by senior attorney Nadia Aziz. First, I'd like to thank staff for their hard work on these proceedings, and I'd also like to thank the council and the mayor for listening so attentively and respectfully to the testimony of many of our clients, all of the residents of the mobile home park, and the community. Your decision won't and shouldn't be made in a vacuum. 400 Palo Alto residents live in Buena Vista Mobile Home Park, and its closure will mean the loss of their homes, and it will mean the loss of an important community. It also means the obliteration of a very diverse community, a vibrant community, and one that is very close-knit. And it will also mean the loss of shrinking numbers of affordable housing opportunities for low-income individuals in Palo Alto. But you don't have to rely on having your heartstrings pulled to make a decision about the relocation package, because we're going to show you step by step how grossly inadequate the relocation package is, how it doesn't adequately mitigate the adverse negative consequences that you've heard about so eloquently tonight that would result from the closure, and frankly, how the hearing officer just got it wrong. After weighing the evidence and considering the arguments, the council must reject the closure request. I'm going to introduce Libby Seifel. She's a principal at Seifel Consulting, and she's advised numerous cities, public entities, and private clients on the planning, funding, and development of mixed use and mixed income developments. She teaches and writes about best practices in relation to real estate and urban development. And she's going to talk to you about what comparable housing would mean to Buena Vista Mobile Home Park residents and what it means in the ordinance.
Thank you, and you'll have 10 minutes, Ms. Seifel.
Right. Thank you very much. First, what I'd like to say is what a wonderful community this is, and I know because I lived here for many, many years. And as my presentation will describe, what makes Palo Alto so wonderful is precisely why it will be so difficult to find comparable housing for the residents at Buena Vista that they can afford in the Bay Area based on the owner's current proposed relocation assistance. My presentation is organized into 3 parts that basically describes what comparable housing is according to Palo Alto's mobile home park conversion ordinance, the challenges that they face if they were to be displaced in the Bay Area's housing market, and why they will not be able to afford comparable housing given the relocation package. First, what is comparable housing? It needs to be within a 35-mile radius, which generally is from San Francisco to Oakland, Berkeley to Santa Cruz. It also needs to be affordable, similar in size and function, and a similar location, specifically located in a community that has similar access to shopping, medical services, recreational facilities, and transportation, and all of the other unique amenities that make Buena Vista so special. Most importantly, it offers a unique homeownership opportunity in Palo Alto for very low-income households. As Melody Cheney says, I can actually say I have a place of the American dream. Many of us in this community and elsewhere want to own a home. The schools in Palo Alto, as many of the folks that have testified have said, are superior than schools that are near most of the comparable mobile home parks that were evaluated by Professor Doherty for the analysis that was prepared for the attorneys representing the residents. And specifically, the 129 students that live in Buena Vista are served by schools that have a surrounding number of residents that are lower in their percent of Hispanic culture, percent eligible for meal programs, and percent English learners. As summed up by the Palo Alto PTA, not only do the residents benefit from the schools in Palo Alto, so don't likewise the schools benefit from the diverse population that enriches our schools and our community. The transit options are superior to those near other mobile home parks, again, as illustrated by Professor Doherty's research. The location is adjacent to a major bus line along El Camino Corridor. It's within 2 miles of the Caltrain station. And as was found, 2/3 of the Buena Vista area residents commute less than 30 minutes to work. Other mobile home parks do not have this access, which will mean it'll be much harder to get to work for these residents, and they will have to do more driving. In summary, the unique attributes of Buena Vista that need to be found for comparable housing are that it provides affordable home ownership, there are premier high-achieving schools, great medical facilities, local parks and recreational facilities, access to jobs, and regional transit service, all of which make this a very unique location as illustrated on this map. And you can see with the green the wonderful parks that are nearby. If displaced, Buena Vista residents are going to face an affordable housing crisis like we haven't seen in many, many years, or maybe ever before in California. So I first wanted to start with what can residents afford. Using your recent housing element, we did calculations to analyze the typical affordable housing cost for residents, both in terms of homeownership and in terms of rental. And we looked at the income characteristics of the residents based on the relocation data that has been assembled. And typically their annual income is $35,000 a year. About 50% of them, though, earn less than $30,000 per year. The average household size for those living in the mobile homes is about 4 persons. And so these are the characteristics that we've used to analyze what approximately they would be able to afford to buy in the Bay Area housing market. Looking at condominiums, you can see that what the homeownership affordable housing price for residents would be is about $95,000 compared to what the current condominium price is here in Palo Alto of $1.2 million, and comparable facilities, comparable ones countywide, both in San Mateo and in Santa Clara County at around $600,000, or 6 to 12 times what they can afford to pay. Similarly, rents are $633 in terms of what is affordable, and rents are in the $3,000 to $4,000 range for two-bedroom apartments in comparable communities. And note, mobile home park space rents at the Buena Vista Park right now are in the $700 range, so they are approximately affordable to what residents can pay for rent. But the cost of purchasing a mobile home in a comparable community in the Bay Area would be very expensive. We looked on Trulia, which is the only source that is readily available, of what the prices are for mobile home, comparable mobile homes, and you can see the ranges from $45,000 to $300,000 plus for mobile home parks, mobile homes and manufactured homes. And in addition, this is getting worse. As we can see, California has been rapidly escalating in price. That dark green on the shading there shows that this area, Palo Alto, Mountain View, Menlo Park, is the most rapidly increasing portion of the Silicon Valley market right now. And you can also see just the rapid price escalation that has gone on in Santa Clara County in recent months and years. And mobile home prices have also been experiencing dramatic increases, as indicated by Mr. Brabant in his review of the appraisal of the park owner, showing that there have been large increases, well north of 100% in just the past 2.5 years. So there are really limited options for Buena Vista residents if they are forced to relocate. Specifically, current mobile home sales prices are the current relocation assistance would be approximately $53,000, which consists of current market values of mobile homes per the appraisal, plus the rent subsidy for 1 year, plus moving expenses and startup costs. So in other words, the total package is about $53,000. Compared to what we are seeing in just the adjacent communities, which would be Mountain View and Sunnyvale and Redwood City as being the closest communities with mobile home parks, of about $100,000. And according to the owner's appraisal, the space rent at other nearby parks is about $200 to $300 more per space rent, meaning it's in the $800 to $1,000 range per month. There also relocation options would be very limited because there are few vacancies. The mobile home prices have been escalating, as I just indicated, and space rents generally exceed what is currently being paid by residents, and this is all stated in the relocation impact report as well. So in summary, the current relocation assistance is not enough to enable households to afford mobile homes near Palo Alto. and they would likely have to go beyond 35 miles to be able to find something that they could afford to purchase, and it will not be comparable because of the unique characteristics that I've just identified in terms of what makes Buena Vista such a wonderful place to live. And that would result in those that wanted to keep their jobs, very long commutes by car, or the need to find new jobs, or the challenge that they would face, which is to make additional trade-offs between paying for housing, paying for transportation, and paying for food and health care for their children and their family members. And there really is not affordable housing available for other choices, for example, as rent. There's an 8 to 10 year waiting list from the Housing Authority. Condominiums are prohibitively expensive, so after a year, they're really going to be facing severe challenges. As you can see by this map, the only places they could really afford apartment rents would be way outside of this location. And so last but not least, comparable housing is based on the unique features of Buena Vista, which include all of the characteristics that I've identified, including schools, transit access, recreational facilities, medical facilities. If they're displaced, Buena Vista residents will face challenging difficulties in this very, very rapidly escalating Bay Area housing market. And with the owner's proposed relocation assistance, residents just will not be able to afford comparable housing at the levels of assistance that's being provided because the cost of housing will just be so expensive for them. And also, given the very low amount of vacancies, they will really not be able to likely find enough housing to really be able to relocate themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well timed. So now we will go to the resident's attorney, and you will have 30 minutes. Let us know when you're ready.
Okay, I will. Is someone going to load our slide track? Thank you. So while we're waiting for the slides to load, my name is Nadia Aziz. I'm a senior attorney with the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. We represent the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park Residents Association, and the Residents Association represents the vast majority of residents who live at Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. No, I think it's the next one. It's the next one over. Thank you. So again, thank you for hearing this important matter that it's in front of you today. So just click. Okay, sorry. The question in front of City Council tonight is whether or not the mitigation assistance is adequate to mitigate the negative impacts of the park closure. And as our presentation will show, the answer to this is no. The Residents Association's presentation tonight will focus on 4 points. 1, that the mitigation assistance will not allow residents to move to comparable housing in a comparable community to Palo Alto. 2, because the mitigation measures are based on appraisals that have not yet occurred, it's impossible to ascertain whether the amount of relocation benefits being proposed is adequate. 3, the proposed startup costs that the park owner has to provide are inadequate because it's based on a 1-bedroom rate and will not allow families to relocate to new and stable housing. And lastly, there is no plan to relocate residents to comparable housing. The relocation impact report that the park owner is proposing does not comply with Palo Alto's ordinance. Our written comments have discussed 2 groups of residents that we are not going to focus on tonight with our oral comments. Those are mobile home residents whose mobile homes can be moved, which the RIR predicts as about 2 residents, and also the studio tenants who the park owner is not providing any relocation assistance to. Because the vast majority of residents at Buena Vista are mobile home park owners whose mobile homes can be moved, we are going to be focused on our oral comments on those particular residents. So for those residents, the park owner must pay enough relocation assistance so that those residents can move to comparable housing in a comparable community. And that means a comparable mobile home in a comparable mobile home park. The park owner is also required to reimburse residents for any loss of investment in their mobile home and reimburse residents for any remaining loan payments on their mobile home. Instead of providing comparable housing as is required by the ordinance, the park owner proposes relocation benefits based on an appraised value that is yet to be known. That appraised value does not take into consideration the value of the park being in Palo Alto. The park owner also must provide a lump sum relocation payment to all residents, regardless of whether or not their mobile homes can be moved. This lump sum startup cost payment includes moving costs, first and last month's rent, a security deposit, a 1-year rent differential for low-income families, which includes all residents at Buena Vista, and additional assistance for disabled and senior families. As we will discuss later in our presentation, this assistance is not enough because it's based on a 1-bedroom, which for most families it will be inadequate. So the ordinance contemplates comparable housing. This means enough relocation payments so that a resident at Buena Vista can purchase a mobile home or condominium in a comparable community. The ordinance specifically defines the terms comparable mobile home park, and comparable housing. In defining what comparable housing is, the ordinance requires that the park owner provide enough assistance to be able to move to a comparable community similar to Palo Alto within 35 miles. The ordinance lists the amenities that this comparable community should have. The ordinance lists similar access to public transportation. You've heard how residents rely on public transportation, how the park is right on the 22 bus line, and this allows residents to have a diversity of job opportunities being so close to public transportation. It's similar access to shopping. Residents who live in Palo Alto have better access to fresh food, to fresh groceries than other residents who live in low-income communities. It's similar access to medical facilities. The park is a mile or so away from one of the nation's premier hospitals, which is Stanford Medical Center. It's similar access to community amenities and recreational facilities. Palo Alto is full of parks. There's summer programs that Buena Vista residents, the children at Buena Vista can attend. And even though the ordinance does not specifically say this, the list of amenities is inclusive and is meant to include schools. Comparable housing has to take into Palo Alto schools. Palo Alto is its schools. The reason that Palo Alto is such a valuable place to live, the reason people want to move here is because of its schools. Palo Alto schools are among the best in the nation, and you've heard testimony. I don't need to go through it again about why education is important to the residents and why the schools are important to the residents at Buena Vista. They're integrally connected to the school system. Having a quality education opens doors that these children would not be able to get in other communities. And Buena Vista residents pride themselves on a 0% dropout rate. The dropout rate for Latinos in Silicon Valley is about 28%. Buena Vista prides itself on the 0% dropout rate because they know the importance of having a Palo Alto education. So these are things that must be taken into consideration when looking at what constitutes a comparable housing in a comparable community to Palo Alto. Using an appraised value for comparable housing is not an adequate measure, and it's not contemplated by the ordinance. The ordinance, when listing the type of relocation assistance that the park owner must provide, talks about replacement housing. Appraised value is not used in the definitions of comparable housing, and it's not used in defining in that list of payments that the park owner must make. This graph shows why using appraised values is not an adequate measure. The projected average updated appraised value for mobile homes in Buena Vista is $22,000. The current range of prices to purchase a mobile home in nearby communities, and this is Mountain View and Sunnyvale, is between $120,000 to $380,000. Using an appraised value is not going to allow residents to move to comparable housing, and it's not going to be adequate. What's even more problematic is the actual relocation assistance that residents will be getting is unknown at this time. During the last few minutes of the administrative hearing, the park owner proposed a last-minute change, which changed the relocation impact report to include an updated appraisal that happens after the park closure process has been completed. So you're being asked tonight to make an important decision about whether the mitigation assistance is sufficient, yet we don't have any numbers in front of us. We don't know what the relocation assistance is. It's difficult to ascertain whether or not assistance that is unknown is going to be adequate. Even more problematic is that the hearing officer provides no recourse for appealing individual residents to appealing the relocation assistance once it is known. This is a final decision that's being made about the closure process. The ordinance contemplates that the relocation assistance that residents receive are subject to a third-party review, specifically a third-party review by a hearing officer and by the City Council. The owner is essentially circumventing that by not having any numbers or not having not having the actual relocation numbers in front of you today. Based on what we do know, however, it's unlikely that the appraised values that will happen after the park closure process has been completed will be enough to allow residents to move to comparable housing. And that is because the park owner proposes to use the same methodology that was used for the appraisals that came with the relocation impact report in the appraisals that will happen after the park closure process has been completed. And there are several reasons why the appraised methodology is flawed. First and foremost, the appraisal methodology does not consider the in-place value of being in Palo Alto. So much like a single-family home, the value of a mobile home is not just the physical building. It's not just the four walls, the roof, the ceiling, and the fixtures that are in the home. But it also needs to take into consideration the location of that mobile home. Just as a single-family home in Palo Alto will be worth a lot more than the exact same single-family home in Modesto, a mobile home in Palo Alto needs to take into consideration the value of it being in Palo Alto. The fact that the children who live in that mobile home can attend world-class schools. The fact that it's close to public transportation. The fact that the mobile home is close to Stanford and is close to amenities that other communities don't have. The appraisal methodology ignores the fact that the park is in Palo Alto. The rebuttal report that the park owner submitted specifically states that it is ignoring the in-place value of Palo Alto. And I quote, "The Palo Alto location of the subject mobile home park, due to the park's limited infrastructure, facilities, and high density, simply negated the need for a location adjustment." First of all, the condition of the park does not outweigh the incredible value of the park being in Palo Alto. You've heard that from the testimony of so many residents about the fact that they moved here because the park is in Palo Alto. Second, it's not fair to disregard the value of the park being in Palo Alto because the park owner did not upgrade the park. It's essentially allowing him to take advantage for failing to maintain the park. Second, the appraisal methodology used low comparables to assess value. How you look at value in appraising a mobile home is looking at comparable sales. The comparable sales that were used looked at older models and there was a skewed. Some of the sales that the appraisal methodology looked at were outdated. And for that reason alone, it skewed the values of the mobile homes at Buena Vista lower than they should have been. The bottom line is using an appraised value is not going to allow residents to move to comparable housing, and it's not going to be enough relocation assistance. The lump sum startup costs that the park owner is required to pay will not be sufficient for families at Buena Vista. More than 2/3 of the people living in Buena Vista have children under 18. Most of them have more than 2 children living with them. For all but 4 of these families, the relocation assistance or the lump sum startup costs, including the rent differential, will be based on a 1-bedroom. Not only will this be insufficient for families, but it does not comply with the ordinance. When talking about the rent differential, the ordinance specifically states that the rent differential is based on rent in the new location. Families with children are not going to be able to rent 1-bedrooms. Which landlord is going to rent a unit to a 1-bedroom unit to a family of 5? A family of 5 trying to rent a 1-bedroom will be overcrowded, and most landlords will not accept such families. Additionally, most landlords require that a tenant make 3 times the rent in order to be able to rent. Having a rent differential based on a 1-bedroom ignores this reality of renting in the Silicon Valley. And even presuming that this will be enough to allow families to move, because the rent differential is limited to 1 year, it's only going to allow for residents to move to temporary housing. Most importantly, there's no plan here. The relocation impact report and the ordinance are not just about giving relocation payments to the residents, but it's about creating a relocation impact plan that's going to help residents transition to comparable housing. It's looking at the individual needs of specific families at Buena Vista and coming up with a plan that will move them to comparable housing. The ordinance contemplates such a plan. The park owner was required to survey residents, and in surveying residents, they had to look at what is the household income of residents, what is the family size, is anyone in the family disabled and have specific needs. And not only was the park owner required to look at the specific needs of individual families, but they were required to look at the comparable community and what comparable housing means. The relocation impact report required an analysis of the purchase price of comparable mobile homes, where those comparable mobile homes and condominiums are located. Are they within 35 miles? Are they within comparable communities? And for each specific park, the park owner was required to look at space rent and qualifications for each resident. This information is not so there's just a list of housing available somewhere that could be posted for residents to move to. And it's not made in a vacuum. It's made so that there can be a plan to move residents to comparable housing. There is not one single location identified within 35 miles of the park that residents can move to with the relocation assistance that's being offered. There is no plan here. In fact, one of the expert witnesses of the park owner specifically said, in my experience, sometimes homeowners opt to relocate to the Central Valley where living costs are lower. You saw in Ms. Seifel's presentation the radius of 35 miles. It doesn't include the Central Valley. There is no plan to move residents to comparable housing. So what is this going to mean for families? So I want to talk to you specifically about what the relocation assistance will mean for one family. Dolores Covarrubias is a hardworking mom. She's lived at Buena Vista for 14 years and owns the mobile home that she lives in. Dolores moved to Buena Vista for several reasons. One, so she could be close to her work. She works in the food service industry and her job is in walking distance. And Most importantly, so her daughters can have access to a Palo Alto education. Her oldest daughter is in college at UC Santa Cruz. Her younger daughter one of her daughters has a learning disability and requires special education. Because she lives in Palo Alto, she was able to access an individual educational plan and get supportive services so that she graduated through the Palo Alto school system and is now at Foothill College trying to be a veterinary assistant. Her youngest daughter goes to Barron Park Elementary. Her mother also lives with her and helps her care for her daughter. So this family of 5 has specific needs. Ideally, they would like to stay close to their work, close to the schools. They need a space big enough for their family, so as we stated earlier, most likely a 2 to 3 bedroom unit, and they prefer to stay in a mobile home. So what is being proposed tonight? The proposed average relocation assistance is $53,000. However, this $53,000 doesn't come with the plan. And it's likely that Dolores will get much less than this $53,000 because her mobile home was appraised for less than the average. What options does this relocation assistance give Dolores and her family? So as Ms. Seifel's presentation showed, it's very unlikely that she'll be able to move to a mobile home in which she's within 35 miles. Even if she could find a mobile home, she would probably need to finance some of it. Yet the park owner provides no information about what financing options might be available for low-income residents. Would the choice that she faced be being required to move 100 miles away to the Central Valley in order to have a home ownership opportunities? Or does her options mean that she must rent in order to stay close to the schools and to her job? The relocation impact plan doesn't answer these questions. As you all know, there's no mobile home. Buena Vista is the last mobile home park left in Palo Alto. What the relocation impact plan needs is information and analysis that would help specific families have an individualized plan to allow them to move to comparable housing. If you ask the park owner about their plan, their response probably will be, well, that's why we have a relocation specialist. Now, the relocation specialist is limited to the relocation assistance that's been provided. He cannot create affordable housing and affordable home ownership opportunities that simply do not exist. During the hearing, the park owner's relocation specialist specifically testified that it would be difficult to find housing within 35 miles of the park. He also stated that residents would need $20,000 to $50,000 more than what was being offered to buy a mobile home. He also mentioned that residents would probably need some kind of outside financing, but didn't talk about what options would be available to low-income residents like the vast majority of Buena Vista residents. He also stated that it would be unlikely to find an apartment with similar rents. Relying on the relocation specialist is misguided. It abdicates the park owner's responsibility to have a plan, and it does not make sense given the relocation assistance that's being provided. The relocation specialist can only work with the assistance that's being provided, and as you've seen, residents are going to need a lot more to move to comparable housing. Again, the question before City Council tonight is whether or not the relocation assistance is enough to adequately mitigate the negative impacts of the park closure. And again, the answer is no to this question. One, it will not allow residents to move to comparable housing. It's based on an unknown value, as it's based on appraisals that will happen after the closure process is over. The startup costs are limited to a 1-bedroom, which would be insufficient for most families. And lastly, there's no plan to relocate residents. Because the proposed mitigation aspects are inadequate, and because the ordinance has not been complied with, the city must reject the current plan. When this ordinance was passed 2,000 years ago, I'm sorry, in 2000, not 2,000 years ago. That would be a biblical ordinance, which it's not. When this ordinance was passed in 2000, was it meant to give the residents some money so they can move to the Central Valley? Or did it anticipate providing enough assistance so that residents could move to comparable housing in a comparable community? Thank you again for hearing us tonight. Both Ms. Seifel and I are available to answer questions if any council members have questions at this time.
You actually have 7.5 minutes left. If you need to use that in some manner, you're welcome to the time.
We'll save those for rebuttal, if that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, you have separate time for the rebuttal, but okay, thank you. So we will now move then to the attorney team for the property owner. And once you get set up, you will also have 30 minutes.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Holman and council members. We met in early January, or excuse me, it was late January. I'm Margaret Nanda. I'm the attorney for the park owner, Buena Vista Mobile Home Park owner, the Gisser family. I want to start by turning around and doing the same thing which I did at the 3 public hearings that occurred in May of 2014, which is to acknowledge the residents of Buena Vista who are here tonight and their supporters, but in particular the residents, and acknowledge the very difficult situation that they find themselves in. My client and I are not unmindful of that fact at all. What is before the council tonight is, in fact, a legal question. And I would submit that there are 3 things which form the legal basis for a park closure. In this case, most importantly, and we begin with the Palo Alto Your Own Ordinance, which this council, I realize not the people sitting in these seats, but the Palo Alto City Council created with one park in mind, Buena Vista. In 2000, there was only one park in Palo Alto. There is still only one park. It was Buena Vista. The ordinance was created with the input of the residents, as you even heard testimony about tonight, and with the advice of the resident's attorney. In addition to the conversion ordinance, and as the ordinance itself acknowledges, state law, in particular the government code and the mobile home residency law, a portion of the civil code which governs the relationship between park owners and tenants, governs this process. And finally, of course, there is the United States Constitution, which of course contains the Fifth Amendment, which prohibits the taking of private property by the government without just compensation. I start with this because in the discussion of mitigation assistance that we have heard tonight, the mitigation assistance in a mobile home park closure is not unlimited. But let me begin even before that and articulate for the council, as was articulated by Craig Labadie, the hearing officer, and as has been articulated by our local 6th District Court of Appeal, Justice Patricia Manukian, and is indeed contained in state law, the government code. A mobile home park owner in the state of California can exit the rental business. That is the law. This family can close the park. They can close it, and they do not even have to convert it to another use. But they can close it, provided that they follow the law. And in our case, we have to follow the ordinance as well as state law. And I would submit that we have. We have heard a lot about the inadequacy of the mitigation assistance that has been offered. So let me start by saying that there is no confusion on this point. The mitigation assistance, which is being offered by the Gisser family regarding the closure of Buena Vista, is that which is contained in Exhibit A to the Craig Labadie decision. Mr. Labadie, a hearing officer who was chosen by the city attorney's office without input or consultation with, I believe, either side, but certainly not the park owner, who I was told in my one telephone conversation with Molly Stump before the hearing in January, and Grant Calling repeated the same thing. They had tremendous respect for him. He was a highly regarded member of the California League of City Attorneys, and he was a former city attorney for the city of Walnut Creek, where there are a number of mobile home parks and, in fact, very intense mobile home rent control battles. So Mr. Labadie's decision, Exhibit A, is what we are proposing. So we are not arguing or proposing anything other than what he found to be reasonable mitigation assistance. What Mr. Labadie acknowledged, and which the Residents Association does not acknowledge, is that there are in fact limits on mitigation assistance under the government code. And again, your own ordinance sets forth that it is subject to this government code section, which provides that the steps required to mitigate shall not exceed the reasonable costs of relocation. And indeed, Mr. Labadie discusses that at length. And again, I'm citing there Palo Alto, your section 9.76040, subsection G of the ordinance. You have that exact same language in the ordinance. So there are limits on the mitigation assistance. Then Mr. Labadie, in his decision, in his final decision of September 30th, and you have before you, I see many piles of paper, even the record that is before you does not constitute the entire record of the case or that which Mr. Labadie examined in his decision. And he says, after careful consideration, his ultimate conclusion was that the park owner had met its burden of proof and that the package of mitigation assistance, which taken as a whole and with certain supplemental conditions, which are in Exhibit A, do meet the criteria set forth in the city's ordinance and requires a mandatory approval of the application to close the park. So, Council for the Residents Association has already gone through elements of the mitigation assistance. Now, the first item is the appraised on-site fair market value of the home. We did not pick Mr. Beccaria, who will testify tomorrow night as our expert, out of a vacuum. I have been, as I explained to the council in January, practicing in the area of mobile home law for 35 years, and I believe I am the only person in this council chamber who has actually participated in and indeed led 6 other closures, and I'm currently at work on 4 other closures. I have closed 2 parks already in Sunnyvale, and the 3rd is under closure. And that 3rd park is literally a mile and a half down the street from Buena Vista. Mr. Beccaria is the most highly regarded mobile home appraiser in at least Northern California, if not the state of California. But you will see his own rebuttal tomorrow. But we picked him with the approval of the city. The city has a list of appraisers, and we said who we wanted to use, and the city approved our choice of him. And I might add, your own ordinance, again, we did not design the ordinance, we are subject to it. Many other cities, San Jose, Sunnyvale, Fremont, they provide for an appraisal within 6 months of the date that the park owner is going to purchase the home, which is what we ultimately proposed. Your ordinance requires an appraisal to be done at the outset of the process before the first resident impact report is submitted. The first resident impact report was submitted in May of 2013. The appraisals were completed in April of 2013. So the fact that they were old, or that they are now considered old 2 years later, or they used data that was available to him then, is because of the terms of the ordinance. The ordinance requires us to pay 100% of on-site fair market value. And we are offering that. Now, next, the hearing officer has approved or stated, as per the terms of the ordinance sets forth what are things which should be offered as mitigation assistance. It's a rent subsidy and startup costs. We amended the RIR on the last night of the public hearings for one reason and one reason only, because for the previous 2 nights, the residents had been testifying that about 2 issues. The appraisals were too low, and the proposed rent subsidy of 40% was way too low. So we amended it to provide, as many other ordinances through conversion ordinances throughout the state of California do, for an appraisal within 6 months of the purchase to give them the latest and best value of the home, and furthermore to increase the rent subsidy to 100%. You can't increase the rent subsidy to more than 100%. Then they are entitled to startup costs for the first and last month's rent and security deposit. What does that equal altogether? It equals that for 15 months, they pay the same rent wherever they choose to go as they are currently paying at Buena Vista. The fact that the ordinance says that the rent subsidy is for a period of 12 months is not of our doing. It is your ordinance. We are complying with the ordinance. The Residents Association is suggesting a longer subsidy would be appropriate. Your ordinance does not require that. And Mr. Labadie did not order that. His decision did not find that. They argued at the time that what we were suggesting as the reasonable amount for relocation of personal property was not adequate. He accepted their argument. He said it should be actual reasonable moving costs. We are not opposing that. We have accepted that. Actual reasonable expenses for 2 nights in a hotel motel during the moving process. Again, we have accepted that. In addition, he said there should be additional assistance for handicapped residents, for packing or other physical tasks, and the cost of replacing special equipment. And I might add that, again, the Residents Association has throughout this process made many disparaging comments about the housing relocation specialist. Again, the housing relocation specialist here was chosen with the approval of the city and is an experienced housing relocation specialist and is not our agent, as they have often stated. He is paid by the park owner because your ordinance requires it, but he does not work for us. Okay? And if you think that he is our agent, the testimony that he gave at the first hearing, which, by the way, was before we introduced the amendment on the 3rd night, that testimony is before that time. But if you think he was testifying necessarily in our favor, they're arguing he was not. So he's not our agent. I point this out because Craig Labadie, in his decision, gives a number. They're saying there's nowhere for these people to go under this relocation plan if they disagree with something. Read Exhibit A. He says, Craig Labadie says at the end of the opinion, I'm not going to retain jurisdiction here, but the housing relocation specialist is capable of making decisions and binding those upon the park owner. So, for example, if the housing relocation specialist said that a certain amount is due for additional assistance, it is up to the park owner to pay that, because that is Craig Labadie's decision, and we have accepted that decision. So, I think it's very important also that the council recognize that the payment here is a lump sum payment. The Residents Association make light of that fact, but it is not. It is a very important fact, because what it in fact means is that the amount of money that the residents will receive will be paid in a single check without regard to where they decide to go. So it's based on average rents in Palo Alto and surrounding cities, not cities within 35 miles, Palo Alto and surrounding cities. And that is what he has ordered. So if they choose, which I'm not suggesting they should, but let's say they choose to go to the East Bay, which is still within the 35-mile zone they've just chosen, they may get rent which is lower than that which is going to be paid by the park owner. And again, your ordinance says it's only for 1 year, with plus the startup cost, which is the first and last month's rent and the security deposit, in fact represents 15 months of rent. So now what we have done, and which we have done, is we have prepared a sample of the actual mitigation assistance that a tenant would receive if they were moving to a one-bedroom apartment. And I will address the one-bedroom versus two-bedroom issue in just a moment. Now, at the time that we first prepared the statement for this council, we did not have the opposing counsel's rebuttal and their position that David Beccaria's appraisals are faulty as prepared by this expert in Escondido. If you look at what Mr. Beccaria submitted in writing already to the council, he is estimating at present a 31% increase in the median mobile home price between 2013 and 2014. So if you take the average value of the home, the average value, original appraised value at a home at Buena Vista was $18,816. Today, that if the park were closing today, which it is not, it would be $24,000. I want to make sure I'm reading this right. $24,649. The 12-month rent subsidy, that in and of itself would be $22,441. The startup cost, the first and last month's rent and security deposit, would be $7,860. The moving cost we have estimated here at $1,100 because that is the figure the Law Foundation used in their original briefing. The disabled assistance is to be determined. That amounts to a package of $56,050. If the homeowner had a two-bedroom home, again and it was originally appraised at the median value there, originally of $18,816, a two-bedroom home with a 31% increase would be $24,649. The 12-month subsidy would be over $27,000. The startup cost would be over $9,000. The moving costs at $1,100. It amounts to $62,103. So now I want to show you an example of an actual appraisal. And again, these were provided to the city and to the planning department in soft copy. So these are part of the record that the city had and which Mr. Labadie had before him. On page 3 of every David Beccaria report, there is something called a summary of the salient features. I have redacted for purposes of this PowerPoint the space number and the name of the tenant. In this case, what is being appraised is a 1955 travel trailer with addition. Note the addition. Now, he has found a value here of $17,000. I would like the council to note that under the $17,000, he says there is no off-site value noted for this unit. Now, the reason I bring this to the council's attention, what that means is that if that mobile home were not located at Buena Vista, it would have zero intrinsic value. It has no value. And I remind the council to return to what is in fact reality. Of course these are these people's homes. Of course they are their homes. But they are items of personal property. They are not real estate. They are not stick-built housing. And what this park owner is going to do, in fact, if he buys these at their appraised value within 6 months of Mr. Beccaria's reappraisal, what is he buying? He is buying an item of personal property, and he is buying that for a value which reflects its value on his own land, which he already owns. And I submit to you there are serious constitutional questions with that issue, because the only reason this home is valued at $17,000 is because it is sitting in Palo Alto on property he already owns and which he is renting. So I submit and I preserve our objection for the record because, again, I think there are serious problems when the value is only because it is sitting on land he already owns. Further, the Residents Association continues to ignore, and I take nothing away from any speaker tonight about their love of their home, their love of their schools, the close community they feel they have. But Buena Vista is not a traditional mobile home park. I assume that every council member here has walked the park and seen the homes. Only 30 of the 108, only 30 homes there are in fact mobile homes within the definition of either the Health and Safety Code or the California Administrative Code. The rest are RVs, travel trailers, or trailers, some as old as the early 1950s. They were built for temporary recreational use. The park does not have proper infrastructure to even support a modern mobile home. The average square footage of the homes does not compare to modern mobile homes. For example, in the Trulia data, which they have submitted to you, the average of those homes are 1,120 square feet. The average home at Buena Vista is 458 square feet. That is a big difference. The average age does not compare. The Trulia listings, which they submitted to you, the homes are 17 years old. The Buena Vista homes average 39 years old. That is the average. So let's take a look at a couple of units at Buena Vista. So number 29, okay, that is a recreational vehicle. It is not a mobile home. It is a mobile home because it has been located in a mobile home park for longer than 9 months. That's a part of the statutory definition of a mobile home under the mobile home residency law. Then, if you look at the picture on the right, number 59, you see what has been discussed by Mr. Labadie and which was discussed at length in the RIR. So what has happened here is that is in fact also a type of RV to which a structure and addition has been added, okay? And Mr. Beccaria's reports, and he will say tomorrow night that with the exception of, I believe, one person at the park, none of the additions were done with permits from HCD or anyone else. So now, then we have, then if you look at, for example, the unit at number 47 that we have in this picture, from the front, it indeed appears to be a mobile home. But when you go to the rear, you see that this person has merely erected walls around the home. And in fact, that again is a type of a recreational vehicle and not a mobile home as you may be used to thinking or they are suggesting are comparable mobile homes by way of the listings in the Trulia data. Then finally, if you walked the park, no doubt you noticed, and this is again, this home is a mobile home. It's a single wide mobile home. I'm talking about the silver portion of the home that's on the right in the right picture. What this homeowner did was literally enclose the asphalt around his space. And if you will notice the picture in the tree grows out of the center of the roof. He enclosed the space. So what you are seeing there is this additional modification which added bedrooms to the home. So when we are discussing comparable homes, this is what the Residents Association gave you as listings of comparable housing, okay? And these are located at a park in Mountain View, and it is a senior community. And when we, in the Resident Impact Relocation Report, when we gave as examples senior parks, the Residents Association criticized us because Buena Vista is a family park, but these are the listings which they are submitting are in fact comparable housing. I would submit they do not look like the units at Buena Vista. So if you look at the Trulia homes, and there are some pictures of what the interior looks based on the listings, and then you see the units at Buena Vista, they are not comparable. And I think that Craig Labadie recognized that fact. And you cannot, and the fact that they are located in Palo Alto does not transform the physical characteristics of the home. They are not, in fact, comparable. The vast majority of Buena Vista homes are modified trailers, not traditional mobile homes. Even some of the mobile homes have been modified, and they are not, in fact, comparable mobile homes to what they are suggesting. The other thing I would like to suggest to you is that listing, we all know, or I would believe that we might share a common belief, that we can all list our home for any amount of money. The question is, what is someone going to pay for your home? A far more reliable source of data for what mobile homes are in fact selling for, not being listed for in the communities surrounding Palo Alto, is data which is available from a service which picks up the actual sales data through the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is the only agency in California which titles mobile homes. And we submitted some of that data during the hearing to Mr. Labadie. I did not bring that data with me tonight. We could track and we could provide you with what every single mobile home park in Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Santa Clara, San Jose, every mobile home within that park sold for within any amount of time. 1 year, 6 months, 4 months, the data is there. We were not to introduce new evidence tonight, so I did not bring that data. I will represent to you that there are homes in all of those communities that do sell for $50,000 and under. Now, the problem with the Residents Association argument tonight about the uniqueness of Palo Alto, and I do not live in Palo Alto, and I am not debating the wonderfulness of Palo Alto. However, the only way these residents remain in Palo Alto is, and are homeowners, as they suggest they should be, this is in their brief. Payments to mobile home owners should allow them to move to and purchase comparable ownership housing, mobile home or condominium. So to remain in the Palo Alto schools and the city of Palo Alto, it would require the park owner to purchase condominiums in Palo Alto for these residents. The average price of a condominium for sale in Palo Alto today is $1,247,500. Does that exceed the reasonable cost of relocation? Yes, it does. And I don't believe that anyone can disagree with that. The fact that there are not affordable housing options for these residents to go to within Palo Alto and remain in the schools and within this community that is so dear to them is neither the fault of the park owner nor the park owner's responsibility. It is not the park owner's responsibility to build affordable housing in Palo Alto. I submit it is the city, it is the state, it may be the federal government, as their expert has suggested, but it is not the park owner. Now, then, of course, there is the argument, which Mr. Labadie accepted our argument about the schools. In fact, if you looked at the record in this case, and we did include that in the record, there is a record of the council meetings that occurred when the ordinance was enacted. And there is more than adequate language about how the assistant city attorney at the time, Ariel Colon, looked at a number of ordinances, and the residents were represented by an attorney. And I believe that you probably would agree that the Palo Alto schools were excellent in the year 2001, also when the ordinance was passed. And the ordinance does not name schools. And Mr. Colon practically copied verbatim the City of Monrovia mobile home conversion ordinance, and that specifically references schools. And moreover, in those days, the city of Sunnyvale, the city of San Jose, they all had conversion ordinances. They had had them since the 80s. Those local ordinances also mention schools. Yours does not mention schools. What does Mr. Labadie find on this issue? He acknowledges what you all heard tonight, undisputed. that Palo Alto schools are among the best in California and are highly valued. But he says, without in any way minimizing the importance of this information, it does not directly factor into the criteria listed in the conversion ordinance. And why is that? Because there simply is. He found then, on this record and considering the plain language of the conversion ordinance, there is no basis for implying a legislative intent, meaning an intent by the council to require analysis of available schools when determining what constitutes comparable replacement housing. The ordinance is what the ordinance is. It is not what the resident association wants it to be or wishes it to be. This is what the hearing officer chosen by the city attorney's office found in relation to that issue. So what is the task of the city council? The task of the city council is to act as a judge. It is to act as a judge in this matter, but it must follow, I submit first, your own ordinance as well as state law and constitutional principles such as the Fifth Amendment. And I think most importantly, and if you have read Mr. Lavity's decision, which I'm sure all of you have, on the very first page, and I think either the first or second paragraph, he says, and he acknowledges that he was very moved by the resident testimony, and he is mindful of the decision, the impact of the decision. But my factual and legal conclusions must be based on evidence and reasoned analysis, not emotion or sympathy. Okay, I will, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Perfect timing. So, council members, it is 10 o'clock, and I would suggest that this would be a good time to break. Tomorrow evening at 6, we would take up hearing from the expert witness from the property owner, and then have rebuttals from both teams, and then go to questions from council members of the speakers here this evening. So, if that's agreeable, Councilmember Filsa.
How much time is allocated towards the expert witness from the park owners?
10 minutes, just as the Residents Association was. Rebuttals are 15 minutes apiece from each side.
I was going to suggest that perhaps it would be good to hear that witness's testimony, because the rebuttals will have the advantage of overnight and tomorrow to prepare their rebuttals. And it might be a good thing for the Residents Association to have the park owner's expert witness testimony before them when they do that.
Councilmember,
that person is not available this evening.
I'm sorry, he is. He has a medical problem, and I believed that this would likely go till tomorrow. So, and he was only available on one night, so I apologize. Okay. But he will only speak for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I think
he did submit a written report in rebuttal to their expert. They have already seen that.
And I think I think you heard that the residents also have agreed that that is okay to hear that expert testimony tomorrow night. So it's okay with them. In a perfect world, of course, we would hear both tonight, but there are physical limitations. So seeing no other lights, no other hands, the meeting this evening is adjourned. We will take up this item again tomorrow night at 6 o'clock right here. And thank you all for coming tonight and for being such a good attendees.